Alrighty. Go ahead. Go ahead and get this party started. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our weekly Owl House and Amphibia discussion stream. I am Covey, your gracious host here today, and once again, I'm joined by my lovely, wonderful bestie, my guest, as always, Tom.
Your guestie.
My bestie guestie. Tom, want to say hi to the people?
I'm sorry, everyone. I made this whole thing late. It's 100% my fault.
Gosh, I was running late. Tired. Hello, everyone. Welcome, Magical. Thank you for being here. Zoe's here as well. Welcome. Coaster. Hello. Gabriel is here as well. Sup. What is up with Concentrate here? Hello. Hi, everyone. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm pretty excited to talk about these episodes. I know we're a little bit behind on Amphibia because we didn't quite finish talking about the last week's episode at the end of the last stream, and I know we were going to do a bonus stream. That's kind of what I was thinking and planning. But okay, full disclosure, guys, one of the main reason why I talk about Owl House and Amphibia over streams instead of doing like a dedicated video per episode is because making videos takes a really long time. Like, it takes much more than the few hours it takes to just sit here and talk about the episode with y'all. And there are also a ton of people who already do those kind of videos, so like I don't want to just add to the endless noise that already exists. So I decided, let's do a stream. Let's have this be a dialogue going back and forth. But I also don't have all the time in the world, and I thought I was going to have some extra time this week, and I didn't. So I apologize for maybe getting some hopes up of a bonus stream and then not ending up doing it. But we will still talk about Amphibia. We'll talk about where we left off, and then we'll talk a little bit about the finale today. And then next week, since we'll have a new Owl House but not a new Amphibia, we'll just continue talking about the Amphibia finale after talking about the new Owl House. So that's the plan. Thank you all for understanding and being so adaptable in, what I'm able to do or what I promise to do. So I really appreciate that. Thank you guys. Oh my gosh.
I feel like it'll end up being kind of like a wake.
Yeah. We'll have like an Amphibia morning stream.
Like a eulogy,
Right.
eulogy for Amphibia. I don't even know. Obviously, we'll kind of talk about it when we get to it, but I don't know about you. I like my critical brain was not really switched on for the Amphibia finale. I was just kind of like crying.
Yeah, I feel you.
It was a very
Yeah, I totally.
Both of these episodes, actually, both the Owl House and the Amphibia episode, both of them were pretty.
Yeah.
Roller coasters.
I apologize. Folks in the chat are saying my mic is kind of wonky. My mic was giving me issues this morning. I'm trying to fix it right now, so hopefully it's a little bit better. I apologize in advance. Also, welcome Tyrone, Shadowlink, Zoe, Robin, Bean, Hyrule. So many folks are here today. Thank you so much. Also, I hope that my mic is a little better. I'll try my best to keep an eye on it, though. I don't know why it was kind of wonky this morning. Okay, I adjusted some settings. Hopefully that helps a little bit. I'll also talk a little bit into the mic so that my sound comes out, but I apologize in advance for my sound being weird. Okay, let's go ahead and get into it. Why don't we? We have a lot to cover today. Let's go ahead and start with Owl House. Some general thoughts I'll say before getting into the episode itself. I liked what happened in this episode. I thought like a lot of fun stuff and a lot of cool stuff happened in this episode, but I'll be honest, this wasn't my favorite episode of the season. It was a little all over the place for me. Like I just felt very disconnected, and like the tone of the A plot and the B plot were like so drastically different. It was a little hard for me to take the Luce and Ida stuff a little seriously because the stuff with like King and Steve was really great. Don't get me wrong. I really enjoyed it, and it made me very happy. But it was a little bit sillier, right? And it was a little bit more lighthearted than what was going on with Luce and Ida. So that disconnect just made it a little bit hard for me to feel the stakes and feel the gravity of what Luz and Ida were going through, when I had like a feeling that they were probably going to be okay at the end, because like King and Steve are out here just like having a good old time. So that's kind of how I felt about the episode. I still really enjoyed it though. I still think a lot of cool stuff happened.
Interesting.
What did you think, Tom?
I never felt I don't want to say I don't agree, because that's not true. I think there was there was definitely a tonal dissonance there. It didn't bother me though, and I'll tell you why it didn't bother me. The stakes were never there to begin with, and I think that was by design, because
That's true.
the second, like, really the drama begins to heighten after Rain has already been brought into the picture. And the second Rain is brought into the picture, we already know they're going to be fine.
Right.
Because we, it's that's the dramatic irony thing of it, isn't it?
Right.
We know what the characters don't. We know that Rain is already well underway planning a rebellion, and that means we know Rain is going to step in and bring them into the fold, which is exactly what happens. So I think I wasn't like experiencing high stakes. I was just kind of enjoying the dialogue and enjoying the character drama for what it was, and I just kind of took it as it was.
No,
and
that's totally fair.
I guess I didn't find the Steve King stuff to be all that lighthearted either. Like, it was obviously lighter in tone, but it was still character drama. It was just communicated differently. It was still, King trying to like figure out who he is. I loved the bit when he's like lying in the puddle in the position of the Titan, and like just these two characters. I liked having Steve there. It felt very inspired by Easy Rider, the Dennis Hopper film.
Totally.
Where it just has this relaxed, laid back, couple of people. They don't know who they are. They're trying to figure out who they are, and they're just going on a little road trip. And it had that Easy Rider thing to it. I didn't find it goofy personally. I think it just, I guess the degree to which you consider it a tonal dissonance really depends on how you read the Steve and King B plot. I think the goofiest and silliest part of it was Lilith and Hootie, who really kind of only showed up a couple times. It wasn't really if anything, they were a reason for King to get out of there and go and find Steve and have that whole thing.
Yeah, for sure.
So it didn't really bother me personally.
No,
and also I would like to say I completely called it on Steve. I said Steve was going to be a hottie.
Yes. We love beautiful Steve. We love his beautiful face. I seriously like smiled so much when Steve took off his mask and we saw his face. Look at that handsome lad. He's adorable. I love him so much. Like, this episode just like skyrocketed Steve into like one of my favorite, like side C characters. Like, he's just so fun. He's just so silly. And I really, really enjoyed him.
People are speculating he might be related to Bartholomew.
Yeah, I think a couple of people are saying that, which would be interesting. But yeah, I totally hear what you're saying. I think I agree with you. I do agree with you overall. I will say I'm glad that we had a little bit more of a lighthearted episode in general this week. With how hard some of the previous week's episodes have been hitting, like, it makes sense to kind of bring a little bit of levity, a little bit of like character drama to the forefront, since the plot drama has kind of been taking over a bit lately. So this was a nice episode. I will say I really enjoyed it. Okay, yeah. So this beginning part, I think we got a lot of answers, but we also got a lot of questions, at least for me, right? So we start off with King, and he's like transparent, semi-transparent, and he's like glowing. We see him on the boat, and he's in this like otherworldly place, right? This green, dark, mystical looking place. He's like looking down at his body, and he's like all see-through, and then we see this like wide shot of the ship itself, and then we see like these floating cubes, right? And these were the same cubes that we saw in yesterday's Lie when Luz was traveling in between the Boiling Isles and Earth, right? So this looks to be like the same place, the same kind of in between world that we saw in yesterday's lie, except now it's King. King is here. We know that King got some sort of connection established with him and the Collector in the previous episode, or in the previous episode. So we can, I think we can safely assume that this has something to do with that, because otherwise we probably would have seen this before, right?
Yeah, and it's no doubt going to end up influencing the plot in some way. I kind of wonder if they'll do a Dracula thing. I'll elaborate. In Dracula, when Mina is infected, they Dracula builds a psychic connection to her, which is something he uses to manipulate people. But they can then actually weaponize that against him, because she has access to his realm as much as he has access to hers.
Right.
So I kind of wonder if that will end up kind of like King's connection to the Collector will end up playing into the end game in some way. In that sense, that would be kind of interesting to see.
Right. Yeah. That is curious. And then we got the Collector here, right? We actually get a couple lines of dialogue. First of all, the Collector is straight up hanging out in a beast ball. Collector is an Ultra Beast confirmed. Like, this is just a beast ball. The Collector is obviously an Ultra Beast. No, I just thought that was funny. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if this was a direct reference to Pokemon.
Obviously, it literally is the beast ball. Like, it's not even like it looks a little bit like it. That's literally just a beast ball.
Yeah. And then the Collector has a couple lines here, right? That's like, I won't be alone anymore. And then when they hear King, King says something and the Collector's like, hello, who said that? Who's here? And then they're like, don't go, wait, don't leave, come back, right? So the Collector like doesn't want to be alone. They seem like particularly childlike in this scene, right? Like, we've seen them kind of acting like aloof and goofy before, but in this scene, they seem a little bit more vulnerable, right? They're a little bit more maybe fearful. So I'm really curious. I know that like we've been speculating a lot about the Collector ever since they got introduced as a character.
I didn't hear anything you just said for the last like 20 seconds.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I don't know why that happened. Basically, I'm just saying that the Collector, we have a lot of theories about the Collector now. I feel like after this scene, I'm leaning more towards the Collector being like a chaotic neutral entity.
That's what I said last stream, and I totally stand by that. This only made me feel more confident.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure you initially brought up that theory, and now definitely I'm leaning more towards it, because it seems more that the Collector
just wants to get the hell out of there.
Yeah, just wants to get out, or just doesn't want to be alone, right?
It really, really feels like the outsider.
Yeah.
I really like the more we see the Collector, the more I feel like the Collector is just like a straight up homage to the outsider from the Dishonored games.
Can you explain a little bit about that? Because I'm not too familiar with it.
It's just it was what I talked about. I'd mentioned a character when I first brought up the idea of them being chaotic neutral. I brought up this character of the outsider who like can bestow gifts and powers. They're like kind of like a deity. Some worship them as a deity, some worship them as a demon, some fear them as a demon. Nobody really knows. But they will present themselves to certain people at like certain junctures, and like they don't appear to have a moral compass. Like they just like to see what you do. But ultimately their main thing is that they're trapped in this other world, right? Where they reside, where they're all on their own and they just desperately want to get out or die. They just want to be free.
Right, yeah.
Of being immortalized in this in-between realm.
Yeah, so that definitely sounds similar to what we're seeing here, right? And I'm curious if we'll get the Collector like on our side at all. Like, I don't know if Belos is maybe manipulating even the Collector. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me, considering how much of an ass he is.
A complete prick.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm curious. I'm definitely very curious if the Collector is eventually going to join our side now too, because this is definitely leaning more towards chaotic neutral to me. They are maybe trapped in the in-between world and want to get out. Also, like, it seems that King, I don't know if King, like being a Titan, has has anything to do with the fact that he's able to travel in this in-between realm, or if it's just because he made that connection with the collector. But yeah, I'm curious to know if like maybe the Titan's blood like isn't quite enough to get to the human world, right? Like there must be something missing there
Yeah.
to kind of finish the portal to go to Earth, right? So maybe Philip would have like left something out in his journal in this discussion. Also, hi Hariana, thank you so much for joining us and for the super chat. You are the first person to use that feature. Congratulations. But thank you so much. That is very, very generous of you. Thank you for donating. That really means a lot to me.
Helps us to pay rent.
It helps us pay rent. Yes, totally. But also maybe wants to kill everyone. I mean, that's a good theory, Francisco. We still know that the collector was manipulating Bill, right? The Titan Trapper people, to like essentially kill all the Titans, right? So it's unclear exactly how evil the collector is, and how much manipulating the collector is doing versus how much manipulating
that's the thing, isn't it?
Interacting
Like,
with the collector is doing, right?
Chaotic neutrality still implies amorality.
Sure.
And amorality still implies that like killing is neither here nor there for them. You know, and if mass sacrifices is what it takes to get them the hell out of that place, then
yeah, that's true. That's true. So so it is unclear, you know, exactly how evil or how neutral the collector seems to be. And whether or not we'll get them on our side is yet to be seen. Okay, so King wakes up, right, and we're back on the boat, and then we actually get the full intro this week. Welcome back, intro. We've missed you.
Yeah, I was thinking that. I missed that little jingle.
Yeah. Shout out
it's
to
a good
TJ
week
Hill.
It's a good week for TJ Hill, isn't it?
It really is. Shout out to TJ Hill, who is an incredible composer, incredible score musician, does a lot of stuff for Owl House and Amphibia. And Amphibia, of course, was an emotional roller coaster, and he killed it in that episode too.
Yeah, absolutely crushed it.
Oh, turn the Albeast into a curse, maybe? That's a good theory, Gabriel. Yeah, so there's also that piece of the collector too, right? With the collector and the Albeast and Ida's dream in that episode. So yeah, very, very curious, very mysterious, a lot of questions, not a lot of answers right now.
Indeed.
So Amity sent loose a little message on the Tamagotchi saying that her mom took her Pensta, but we're safe, right? So that made me nervous because I was like, oh gosh, did Amity like try to talk to her parents about the robots and was like grounded and got her phone taken away? Like, I'm worried about Amity. I'm very excited for the Hexide group to join up with, you know, the rebellion team. I'm just like waiting with anticipation for that to happen, and for Luz and Amity to get their reunion. That's what I was looking for. I was gonna say reuniting. Their reunion.
Sometimes words just they evade us.
They escape me. Yeah, so Amity sent loose a bunch of little hearts. It's very sweet. I really am looking forward to them reuniting. I think it'll be great. King is also just like super sweet and sad, right? He's like, oh, I can get to the Owl House on my own if you want to go check up on Amity. And we get a little bit of a reminder of what happened a couple weeks ago with King and the Titan Trappers and how traumatic that was for him. And we actually got a little extra line in this flashback that I don't think we got in the previous episode, but I don't remember where or when this got confirmed, but I guess this is the confirmation that King is actually the son of the Boiling Isles, that the Boiling Isles itself, that Titan is who King's father is. And I don't know where we got that confirmation, but apparently that is what we're assuming for now. I guess the Boiling Isles was like the last Titan. I guess that's kind of been established, so I guess it would make sense.
And I mean, he was found on the body of the Boiling Isles.
No, he was found a little off the body of the Boiling Isles. Remember that little island that his tower was in is like not technically on the Boiling Isles. So yeah,
they found him in Slough.
That's right.
It was gross. She went over to Slough, and it's like, wow, this is horrible.
Yeah.
And they found King there, and they're like, we need to get you out of here. Slough is no place for a child.
Right, yeah.
That's definitely how that episode went down.
Exactly. See, Magical, that's another good question, right? Like, if the Titans are all killed, how will the Collector find blood to travel between realms, right? So yes, lots of questions I have, lots of mysteries that need answering. Yeah, and so I guess the Boiling Isles is King's dad. I guess that is confirmed. Yeah, where do the trappers get their skulls? I don't know. These are all questions I have. So Luz gets back. Oh, go ahead.
I was under the impression that those skulls were like passed down from generation to generation.
Oh, yeah. Good point.
Because that's what he says, like, your father gave you that.
Yeah. Good point. Good point.
So that's I think what they tried to kind of establish there.
Yeah, that would make sense. Okay, so Luz comes back to the aisles, right? And we see the wanted posters up all over the place. This got a good chuckle out of me. We see the Hootie
demon.
Tube demon is Hootie posters. And then it's like Owl Lady. Then it's like human. Then it's like Lilith. I don't know why Lilith just tickled me so much. Like, that was just really funny to me. Also, the fact that their bounty like rewards are so drastically different. Like, Ida's is so like there's so many zeros, and like Lilith's is slightly higher than Luz's. And we don't see how much Hootie is worth, but I have a feeling that it's more zeros than Ida.
I think Hootie is unknowable, so I think the number itself is unknowable as well.
Yeah. No, it seems to be a little less than Ida, which is funny. And then Luz, of course, is like, let's take the long way home. We don't want to draw attention to ourselves. But of course, as they get to the Owl House, we overhear the guards being like, yeah, without Hootie there, it's a lot easier, right, to ransack and everything. And so we see them
talking about the tea party.
I know, he's talking about the tea party from Hootie, which was a nice little callback. That was fun. I still haven't recovered from the tea party. That was fun.
I mean, he was just like waving their lifeless bodies around like rag dolls.
Yeah. Also, Robin, that's really funny. The poster artist must work really fast if they already have an updated poster of Lilith. That's funny. So they haven't recovered from the tea party. They are basically emptying out the Owl House, and we see little Francois. We see Francois getting confiscated away from the Owl House. Francois, of course, being King's plushie, who he loves dearly. His little bun.
Little bun.
Yeah, it's so sweet. And then, of course, as they open the door to the Owl House, they see that it's completely emptied out, right? Which is a really unsettling visual, right? Like, this show is called the freaking Owl House, and like it has been this safe haven for Ida and Luz, especially with Hootie there being able to protect them. It's been like this safe haven the entire show, and to see it like completely empty and like completely ransacked is just really unsettling, really uncomfortable, right? Like, this is there's like the library in Buffy that is like, spoilers. It's always a Buffy stream.
Anything. Don't you say it. We're watching it.
No. I'm not gonna spoil anything. But like, the library is like this safe haven for the gang and the Scooby Gang. And whenever something bad like does happen in the library, like in season 1, like when the vampires like come to the library and they like attack everyone at the library, like it always feels so much more scary and so much more like heightened, because like they've invaded our safe haven, right? And that's kind of the feeling that I got when I saw the Owl House being empty. I was like, oh no, this is like our sacred safe place, and now it's like destroyed, and it really like made me scared.
People are speculating that this might be the last time we see the Owl House before basically the end of the show.
I don't know about that, but maybe.
Because it seems like they've set up shop someplace else for now.
Right. Yeah, I know. It's always secretly a Buffy stream, Zoe. Always. So Lilith and Ida have escaped to the knee, right? And they've got this little hideout here. I'm glad that we got this, because this is kind of what I speculated happened at the end of the episode. I was pretty sure that they got out before the guards were able to take them. And so I'm glad that we actually got confirmation of that. Can I just say, I love their outfits. Like, I love Lilith's coat so much. It just looks really good on her, and I love like the little teeth design at the bottom. Like, I just think that looks wonderful. The clothes designs in the show are so good.
Looks like it's gonna do a little chompy.
Yeah. I also like that Ida is eating Hex Mix, which is the snack that we saw Hunter eating in the previous episode. So another piece of evidence that they're related. Not really, but I'm just gonna say it is.
But they do a lot of quite clearly deliberate parallels.
Yeah, for sure, right?
And we do, I feel like people are speculating that other brother married a Clawthorn.
Right.
So I don't know. It's a little something.
It's a little something, little hint, little nugget. And they're kind of arguing a little bit because they're trying to come up with a plan, and they're really like not able to come up with a plan. And I love this line from Lilith being like, putting Snorse glue in the Emperor's shampoo bottle is not a real plan, right? So Ida, continuing to kind of default to hijinks when she's under duress and can't come up with a plan, right? Isn't going to save anyone's life. They're both obviously really stressed and really upset about the fact that they really don't have any leverage or anything that can help them, right?
None of them are even bothering to practice their dodge rolling.
That's their biggest flaw, honestly.
That's their biggest flaw. This whole I mean, honestly, they suck at dodge rolling. Luz, her dodge rolling in this episode, pretty bad. It leaves a lot to be desired.
She needs to practice.
And I think if they don't tighten that shit up between now and the Day of Unity, things are not looking good for them, is all I'm saying.
Yes,
they are not making the most of those iframes.
Yeah.
Their outfits clearly do not have the stats to maximize those dodge rolls.
Yeah, they need to get good, as they say.
They need to get good. They're not pro gamers.
Not pro gamers quite yet.
Look at Hootie. Hootie knows what he's doing. Hootie is wearing literally nothing at all. That is how the pro gamers do it. They forego the defense stat.
I cannot take you seriously. I cannot.
Slicing a few frames off.
Oh my god, I hate you so much.
Dodge roll.
I hate you. You're so funny. Oh my gosh, yes. Hootie's the only pro gamer of the group.
Hootie's the only pro. He knows what he's doing.
So they trip off the booby trap that they set up, right? Hey Lulu, Hootie says, and they figure out, right? Luz is like, it took a while to figure out where you were, and then we followed your hex mix trail, right? And we were able to find you. And Ida, interestingly, didn't know about the map, right? Only Lilith left the map for them to find. So it's clear that Ida, she's coming from this space, right? We see it throughout this episode. She's coming from the space of wanting to protect Luz. She's coming from this place of like feeling that responsibility, right? Like feeling the weight of the situation and wanting to keep Luz out of it, right? And so we see that even with this first piece, right, where Lilith wanted them to come and find them, but Ida was like, how did you even find us, right? Like Ida wanted to stay hidden even from Luz, which is quite telling, I feel.
Robin saying that they choose good-looking equipment over good stat equipment. There is no good-looking equipment in Dark Souls. It's all ugly and dark and horrible. So you might as well just not wear anything at all.
Just like Hootie.
Just like Hootie. Hootie is a pro gamer.
But Hootie does get Lilith this t-shirt that says, I was sacrificed to the Grand Huntsman, with the Titan Trapper guy wearing sunglasses and a thumbs up, right? And when they're like, what the heck does that mean? It's a funny gag. I got a good
You just had a gift shop.
Right. I got eternally ritualistically connected with a chaotic dark entity, and all I got was this stupid t-shirt.
That's all I got the show for was this stupid t-shirt.
The Titan Trapper gift shop. Someone needs to make that shirt. That'd be really funny. Fashion souls, that's funny. And so King turned out to be the actual Titan, and they were trying to sacrifice King to the Collector who they worship, right? So and this is kind of funny. Like Ida is like, "Oh, you found a commune of bloodthirsty fanatics when they was supposed to be empty, right?" Clearly Lilith is trying to feel better, right, about sending them there, and then they have the reveal, right, that King is the last Titan, and this is such a sweet line from King too, right? Like he's trying to make a little bit of levity out of it, and he's just like, "Looks like I'm due for a growth spurt soon," and that was just like, "Oh, King, buddy, little guy." And I also really loved Ida and Lilith's expressions of just like shock, right, at this revelation, especially Lilith. Lilith is quite surprised.
Lilith is just a simp in this episode.
Yes, she is. So King tries to make a little snow Francois to feel better, and Ida, she's really surprised. I can't believe that little guy is going to turn into that big guy, right? And it explains his new powers, and Luz has this line here, right, which just really goes to show where she is as well, and how she is as a character too, right, where she really is thinking of King first, right? She's like, he's dealing with so much, and when she said this line, I was just like, girl, you are dealing with so much too right now, like, please don't forget that.
I feel like quite a bit of who she is as a person has been lost over the course of the last several months of her life.
Yeah.
Like, especially when you get to the end of this episode.
Yeah.
And there's like just like an anger in her that we've not seen before.
Yeah.
Kind of sad.
I have some thoughts about that, and I'll get to that when we get to it. But Lilith here is like, oh, you've had a Titan under your roof this entire time, and she's like really excited about it, right? She's like, oh, I ate ice cream with a god, if we remember that.
He fell into the toilet.
Yeah, he falls into the toilet like once a day, which is funny. So this is interesting, right? Like Ida and Luz, right, really do not see King differently after this revelation, right? They're obviously surprised, and they're trying to like process the information about what this means. But Lilith has completely like shifted her attitude towards King, right? Which really says a lot about Lilith too, right? As we'll point out later in the episode. But we see that
it's her traumatic response.
Exactly. She has like this response of like wanting to be seen as like worthy, right? Like wanting to be seen as like good enough to these people whom she sees as like very important, right? And so I think that that's an interesting aspect of Lilith's character that, of course, she's still working through.
Well, in a sense. She could
sense.
still do with therapy, though.
Yes. But she does have a good point here, right? Where she's like, who knows how he can help us out with Bellows? And I feel like that's a good point. Like, definitely could be used to fight Bellows. But of course, Ida is prioritizing both King and Luz's safety, right? And she said, it warms my heart whenever King is referred to as a Clawthorn these days. And Ida just saying like, he's a Clawthorn and technically your nephew, right? Like, that's just really sweet. I really love that. I love it so much.
Indeed.
Right, of course, Lilith says, I'm a god's aunt, she says before, like, very excitedly going away. But is he a gentle god or an angry god, right? It's like, come on, Lilith, like, he's a little nugget that falls into the toilet. Like, he's not an angry or whatever god. He's just a little guy.
He's just a little guy.
He's just a little guy, and I love him.
This episode really draws attention to King's arc. This is, I think, one of the main reasons I didn't really read that whole Steve. Like, the Steve and King section had bits.
Right.
I don't even know if I'd go so far as to call them jokes. They were just bits. Like, they were kind of gently humorous, but they were, like, backhandedly humorous.
It was just lighthearted, yeah.
Like, there's the bit when he sees that couple walking past.
Oh my god, yeah.
And he bursts into tears, and it's like kind of funny, but at the same time, it's really sad.
Yeah, like, oh, buddy.
But you get the whole bit where King is like, "What? like basically as a tiny child, I thought what I wanted was power,
Right.
and now I'm at this stage where like that's not what I want anymore, and who I am anymore, and what defines me as an individual. I've completely lost any grasp of, and like at that point, I just like I don't know quite how lighthearted I would describe that whole part of the story. Really, it still felt very much like
No, that's a good point.
earnest character stuff. Like it felt very I don't know if I would use the word lighthearted at all, actually. I think I would use a different word. I would use the word gentle.
Mm.
Because it's still this like really contemplative story. Like a lot of it is delivered without dialogue. Like you have a whole montage where they're just going places and he's just like hugging the finger and like lying on the ground and
Yeah, yeah.
like it's gentle. It's not funny quite. It's just contemplative.
No,
And I
you
like
make a lot
that.
of good points. You've heard about being a monkey's uncle. Now get ready for being a god's aunt. That's funny, Robin. So Luce is trying to, help out with the plan. She's really eager, but of course Ida is feeling worried because she knows that she doesn't have a plan, and she lies to Luz in this moment, right? She doesn't want Luz to feel worried or even know that they don't have a plan. Or even know that Ida is planning to send them away because she doesn't have a plan, right? So we have this moment of lying here where Luce is a little disappointed, but of course she is like, oh yeah, in case I get captured, right? Smart thinking, owl lady, which I'm just like, oh, Luce, babe, no.
She's still a bit of an idiot baby.
Yeah, she's still a little bit clueless, which we love her for. King is trying to make a little Francois, which is really sweet, and like, ugh, my heart. And little King has this little sock on the end of his tail too, which is just really, really adorable. This episode, like, was very heartwarming in a lot of ways, and very emotional in a lot of ways. I'll say it that way.
Yeah, it was.
So Ida is talking to Lilith about like how she's worried about the fact that they don't have a plan, right? Like, what am I supposed to tell her, that we don't have a plan and that we're doomed? And she says that the kids deserve one nice day, right, before they realize how dire things are. And I thought that was really really sweet, but and also like it really parallels, right? And we kind of get this confirmation that this was a kind of deliberate parallel at the end, but this really parallels, right, with what's going on with Rain and Ida about wanting to keep the other person oblivious in order to protect them, and now Ida kind of doing the same for Luce, right? And by the end of this episode, they will both realize that that is not the best strategy.
All I'm hearing is excuses, to be honest with you. All I'm hearing is excuses as to why they aren't doing what they should be doing, which is practicing their dodge rolls.
Exactly.
And I'm tired of the excuses. It's not that hard.
Yeah, struggling with interpersonal communication is not an excuse for not practicing your dodge rolls.
It's honestly, it's a pitiful excuse for not practicing those dodge rolls.
So true. Okay. Yeah. So Ida is like, what would you guys want to do? And King is just like, I just want things to be normal. Poor baby is so just like shook. And things like can't go back to normal, right? And that's really heartbreaking. And then Luz, of course, wants to save Francois. And I love this because this, like, obviously parallels like the first episode too, where they were going to break into the conformatorium to get King's little Burger King crown, which was very important to him. And so I guess like in that way, it was pretty clear from the start that the stakes were never too high because yeah, obviously if they're gonna go in to save a little plushie, it can only be so serious.
They just need the plushie.
They just need the plushie.
And they get the plushie.
They do. So Lilith, right, is trying to kind of suck up to King. She's bringing him tea, and he's just like, "No, I'm good." And she is just like coming up with this stuff, right? Like, oh, you don't need lowly pleasures. You need this freaking bone sword, right? Like, do you need dark deeds carried out in your name? It's like, Lilith, calm down, girl.
To be honest, that bone sword looks like it's got some pretty good stats.
It does. It probably does.
Probably does. Probably has a good solid damage output, I think.
Right.
Maybe you
So,
should have just said yes. Maybe you should have just been like, why don't you go kill Bellows? Maybe that would
right.
have been the incentive that she needed to really make the most of those dodge rolls and really go up
Right.
there. Maybe Lilith is a pro gamer and she just doesn't know it.
I think that's going to be the rest of Lilith's arc as she goes to therapy and as she like comes more comfortable into her own. She realizes her true potential as a true gamer.
But that's just a theory.
That's just a theory.
A game theory. Thanks for watching.
Oh my gosh, I'm kicking you off the stream.
Honestly, that's fair enough. That's fair enough.
All right. So anyway, back to this. King is kind of looking fondly, over at the Boiling Isles, and then he ends up leaving. Right, he goes off on his own little quest. Meanwhile, Ida and Luz are there, holding everything at the precinct for the stuff that they confiscated out of the owl house. And I loved this gag, this little meta gag that we got, Ida saying, like, wouldn't you rather go on a more fun adventure, like a beach day? And Lou saying, like, maybe if we had time for 20 more adventures. It's like, yeah, Disney, maybe we could have gotten that beach episode, the classic filler beach fun episode where we all go through our emotional journeys and become better friends at the end as we have fun playing volleyball. Like,
have they ever done a beach episode right? Has that ever been a good beach episode?
Disney robbed us of our cheesy beach episode.
Hey, I can think of one good beach episode.
What's that?
It's the one in Avatar.
Oh yeah, of course.
What's it called? It's when they go
to the Ember Island.
Yeah, and they're like sat around the campfire sharing trauma stories.
Yes, that's a great beach episode.
That's a good beach episode.
That's what
they could have had a good beach episode.
That's what the Owl House needed. Freaking Disney robbed us of our emotional journey beach episode.
Let's go and kill Disney.
Yes, glares at the mouse. Exactly, Morgan. Exactly. The shade. Yeah, it was really funny. Also, that's a good point, Morgan, that Lilith doing all this stuff reminds us of when she wanted to get extra credit with Luz. So yeah, Ida just wanting that praise, that validation is something that we see often with her character.
Yeah, fawning is clearly her traumatic response.
Right, yeah.
Which I think has manifested itself both, obviously both as a carryover from her Empress Coven days, but also her relationship with her mother.
Yes, definitely. And this is really creepy, right? So as Luz and Ida are making their way over to the precinct, we see like the residents of the Boiling Isles marching with these candles as the scouts are like playing this drum beat. It's really ominous. It's really creepy, really unsettling. And yeah, that just really reminded me how bad things are getting right now, right?
You'd think somebody would be like, something here is not right. This is really, none of this feels okay.
Right.
This feels like a big scam. Like, he hasn't told us anything about what this Day of Unity is.
Right?
That guy's playing a drum very ominously.
And this line, too, like, really goes to show how in the dark everyone is, right? Where this guard is like, can't wait till the day after the Day of Unity, which on one hand is a very funny... is a funny gag, but also just really goes to show how much in the dark these guys all are, right? Like, they have no idea what they're doing.
They really, really don't. And we've got another one of those cat friends with the pointy...
Yes, we got another cat friend. I have to imagine that they're just kind of reusing models to save money.
Well, I mean... They're not. This is still like a. I mean, are they models? This is still like a hand-drawn animation.
Even That's if true. It is I mean, I don't know. I don't know anything about animation, so I could be wrong.
They're not going to be. It's like a similar design, but presumably there's more than one
Yeah,
person in
yeah,
that
yeah,
kind
yeah.
of species.
I would assume so, yeah. All right, so this is funny too, right? Where Ida is like, all right, we can't be taking chances. We got to be really inconspicuous here, right? Cut to them just being in the worst disguises you've ever seen, and just being like, "Take me to my," I mean, the owl lady's confiscated junk. Like, yeah, real smooth, Ida, real smooth.
I
So,
love seeing her like pack her massive hair
yeah,
into a
right.
hood.
Yeah, that's funny. And then like lose his like janky little helmet thing. Yeah, this was silly. This is funny. So I guess this was pretty goofy as well. So maybe I was kind of wrong in my initial assessment.
Yeah, things transition to like a brief period of like a brief period of drama after the
Right.
reveal, I guess. But you know, things resolve themselves nicely by the end of the episode.
Right.
When it
Right.
turns out that the Owl House was was inside of us all along.
It's funny you say that because there is a very funny revelation that we got later on regarding Hootie that I have to cry about when we get to it. But first, we get this awesome moment, right, where we get the return of Steve, and as they pan over to Steve, we get this fun little guitar lick that plays in the
The very
background.
first thing I said to you was like the fucking guitar lick when Steve appears, like
It's so good. It's so funny.
Bill and
uh,
Ted kind of it's
Yeah, exactly. And he's just over here like being all cool with his like skull motorbike, right? And his little cauldron sidecar, and he's got a shirt with his freaking name on it. Like that is the epitome of self-love and self-confidence, is when you can wear a shirt with your freaking name on it with pride, with your leather jacket, right? Ugh, this really tickled me. I love Steve a lot.
leather jacket, lowrider, sidecar.
Exactly.
Why does he have the sidecar?
Specifically for King, like
Who was
for
it?
no
Like,
other reason.
did he bring someone here, or was he waiting for someone? I don't know.
He's just always ready for
But this is
friendship.
not. These are questions that need not
Yeah, they
answering.
really don't need
These
answers.
we don't need to know why Steve goes where Steve goes.
He just does.
Steve just does. Steve is to be felt, not known. You know.
Jokes aside though, King is like, shouldn't you be kissing the emperor's butt right now, right? And we get this kind of this quite emotional moment from Steve, right, where he's like, probably, heck, growing up all I wanted was to be an Emperor's Coven scout, to be considered one of the best. And now that I'm here, now that I got what I wanted, it's not what I thought it was, right? And this is, I think, like a common experience that a lot of people have, right? And I think like this is exactly what King has been going through and is going through in these past few episodes, right? Where all his life he wanted to be this like dominant king monarch that would rule people around and have people do what he
He was a
told.
toddler.
Exactly. But as soon as he gets that, with Lilith, and that makes him uncomfortable, he realizes that it's not actually what he wanted. And I love this little parallel with Steve, because we saw these little nuggets from Steve earlier, right? Where Steve, talking to Hunter, he's like, "Oh, Steve is beginning to regret his
His
choices,"
life
right?
choices.
So I really like that we're getting this kind of parallel story arc with Stephen King in this episode. I thought that was really, really sweet.
Ice pack for Steve.
I love that Steve talks in third person too. Like, it's so goofy and
He's
so
like a
adorable.
Yu-Gi-Oh character.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
Bandit Keith. Does
Oh,
Bandit Keith speak in third person? Am I getting that right?
I have no idea.
Mm.
And
Why would you? Why would you know? Who cares about Bandit Keith? No
and
one.
and I really love this kind of moment from Steve looking at the Titan too, right? Because I think like this begins to raise those questions for King, right? About like who he is, who this identity is. But also I feel like in addition to having this question be about King, maybe he's just some normal guy, about the Titan. I feel like it's also questioning Bellows, right? And his kind of authority Bellows constantly citing the Titan as this god, and him being able to communicate with the Titan as his like method of manipulating people, right? So I really like that this line from Steve kind of does double the work. Like, it both asks this question about King and his character and like who he really is and who his identity is, but also like Bellows and like even what he's trying to say. Is it true, right? Is the Titan really this god, or is he just some normal guy, right?
Can I address something much more important?
Yes.
Shadowlink has cleared it up for me. Bandikeith does not speak in third person, but Johnny Steps does. That's who I was. My brain did a thing there.
Yeah.
It was Johnny Steps.
Okay.
Johnny Steps. This is much more important than what you're talking about.
Of course,
I think.
Of course.
We can all agree.
Oh my gosh, you're funny.
This is not a joke. Yu-Gi-Oh is not a joke.
Steve is like, "Are you going anywhere? I've got a sidecar and nothing but time," he says as he pulls out this little helmet and decides to go on this little journey with King. And I just gotta say, shout out to Steve. He's a real one. He's the real MVP here. I love him.
I want to go on a road trip with Steve, I think.
Okay, so I know that everyone has been talking about their like ideal outhouse endings, right? And here's mine. Here's my ideal outhouse ending. Luz, of course, is able to travel freely in between the two realms, between the human realm and the Boiling Isle, so she
specifically on Steve's lowrider, which now is an interdimensional lowrider that can go.
Exactly. Steve's motorbike becomes an interdimensional lowrider. He joins the outhouse. He moves into the outhouse and becomes like Luz's big brother, and him and Lilith become besties, and they like just hang out all the time. And then I show up in the outhouse, and Steve takes me and puts me in his little sidecar and takes me for rides into the sunset. That is my ideal outhouse ending. It's just me in Steve's little sidecar riding off into the distance. That is going to be the perfect ending for me, in my opinion. If that doesn't happen at the end, I'm sorry. I'm just going to be disappointed. That's just what I am expecting for the end now. It's just me in that little sidecar with Steve.
You forgot to mention the part where Darius and I get married.
Of course. You
forgot to mention that part, I think.
Steve and I roll up to the wedding.
It's a beautiful ceremony. It's very emotional.
It is.
Zoe makes a very good point that Chaz also speaks in third person. That's right. Chaz refers to himself as the Chaz.
Yes.
This is really important. This has to be talked about, I think. Of course. Yeah, because this confirms that Steve is a Yu-Gi-Oh character, probably from 5Ds, where everybody's on a motorcycle.
Right.
And that means that it's connected to Amphibia, because Marcy is now the new king of games, because she completed the Millennium Puzzle.
Clearly. And Morgan's the flower girl. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Yes. You're all invited to the wedding, to Tom and Darius's wedding. Can we talk about Hootie?
Do we have to? I don't really want to. This image is incorrect. I think you'll find.
Can we talk about how horrifying Hootie is, and how Hootie seems to get more horrifying with every episode? I don't know how he managed to get more horrifying after we saw his literal skeleton. But they pulled it off. The Owl House team freaking manages to pull it off. And I think it was Rooster or someone else in the Discord who pointed this out to me. So thank you for pointing this out to me. And by thank you, I mean I hate you for pointing this out to me, because now I have
a little Hootie inside of Hootie.
I have to live with the knowledge that Hootie has a smaller Hootie inside of him, and I don't know how to process this. Why? Dana, why? Why did you do this to me?
Nightbot being an absolute bint yet again.
Oh my god, I'm literally crying right now. I can't process this information that Hootie has a smaller Hootie inside of him. I just can't. I'm literally crying. Oh my gosh. And the freaking teeth. Why does he have so many teeth?
Not even necessarily that he has so many teeth. It's just that they're all in the wrong place.
They're all over the place.
They're none of those teeth are in the place where teeth should be.
The tiny hootie. I can't get over the tiny hootie. It's so horrifying. Its demon eyes are like glowing inside of him.
What I want to know is, what does Tiny Hootie sound like?
I don't think we want the answers to those questions. I know that I don't. Oh my gosh, I can't even pause on the frame properly. But you, if you saw it in the Discord, you know what I'm referring to. The tiny hootie is a very horrifying revelation. I really don't know how to process this or what to make of this. Congratulations, Dana and the Owl House team, for creating this creature that is equal parts horrifying and hilarious. I don't know how you pulled it off, but you pulled it off.
Can I address something very important?
Sure.
Zoe mentioning card games on motorcycles. I'm going to take this as an opportunity to shamelessly plug the fact that I did make a Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds video over on my channel.
That's a really fun video.
And it's only like 7-8 minutes long, but it's one of my favorite videos I've ever made, and absolutely no one watched it. Like, collectively, no one watched it. I was really proud of that video. I worked really hard on it. I thought it was really funny.
It's a fun video. I enjoyed it.
I
don't know anything about Yu-Gi-Oh! And I thought it was funny.
Video.
Oh gosh, Umbreon. I didn't even think about that. That poor Amity was inside Hootie that whole time. Oh god, I don't even want to process
who mentions the teeth?
that.
Somebody mentions the teeth. I think it's that weird little. It's one of the early episodes in season 1. The Snaggleback.
Oh yeah, you're right.
He mentions the teeth because Hootie swallows the Snaggleback, and he's like, "There's so many teeth. His stomach has teeth or something like that." So we're like, we already knew this.
Hootie.
We already knew all this.
Tiny Hootie is more high pitched. Yeah,
I don't agree. I think it's the opposite. I think Tiny Hootie has a deep baritone.
I don't want to think about Tiny
voice.
Hootie. Tiny Hootie is going to keep me up at night for weeks to come, I think.
Tiny Hootie, also known as Tootie.
Yes. Okay, we have to stop. We have to move on. I can't do this anymore. I will start crying. Anyway, Lilith has a couple of funny lines here, right? Where she's like, "He's a Titan for Titan's sake. Oh, Titan, I just took his name in vain. Oh no, I just did it again." Right? Quite funny. Lilith is having this kind of this panic, right? Meanwhile, they notice that King has left, and they realize that they have to go find him. Meanwhile, Luz and Ida are back in the precinct, and they're pretty much getting ignored, which is like the best case scenario, right? And then Ida tries to kind of trick her way into the warehouse by saying that she found these illegal Hexam Hold'em cards, and of course, pretty easily able to get the key, right? Which, funnily enough, is this little skeleton with a number on it, which is quite funny.
A little skeleton.
Yep. And then, of course, this is where we have to raise our eyes and get suspicious, right? Because they're like, "Huh, well, this is pretty easy. Maybe our luck's turning around," right? Famous last words. So they get to the warehouse, and they decide to split up and look for Francois. Ida is like, if things get bad, get out of here as fast as they can. Obviously thinking about Luz and her safety as a priority. And Ida also adds, right, if you find a box that's called Ida's longest toenails, grab that too, right? Which is quite funny and very. I'm glad that we got a reminder of like how gross Ida is, because that's actually one of my favorite things about her character, is that she's just like this slob a lot of the times, and I really love her.
But also, she's smart. She's clever, because that's strategic.
Yeah, hiding the important thing.
She's hid it in a box that absolutely no one in their right mind is going to want to open.
Exactly. Which is very smart.
She's smart until it comes to the time when she really needs to be smart, and then all of her suggestions involve snorse glue and shampoo, right, and then all of a sudden she's a big idiot, and it's like, God damn it. Couldn't you save some of those brain cells for the shit that matters?
Exactly. Also, yeah, totally, Morgan. Tiny Hootie is absolutely voiced by Bob Hoskins. It's confirmed.
Absolutely. Bob Hoskins coming out of Hootie, that would be like, if that happened, I mean, Bob Hoskins is dead. But if that happened, I'd cry.
Yeah.
I'd cry.
It's gonna happen. Um, so Ida overhears one of these captain guards talking over the ball to Rain, right? So we see Rain here, and Rain is like, find the owl lady, and if you find her, bring her only to me, right? So we know as the audience that Rain is of course defected, right? They're working behind the scenes in secret, trying to just go attack Bellos, go against Bellos's plans. And Ida is left out of the loop, right? So I'm curious if Rain has sent the scouts like because they've finally come around and they're like, okay, no, I actually can't keep protecting Ida. I actually realize that we need Ida's help, right? So I'm curious if at this point in Rain's arc, if they've decided against their initial desire to want to keep Ida safe, which I think is the case.
Indeed.
Meanwhile, Steve is here, right? And he's reading this little booklet, Synergy in the Emperor's Coven, right? While King is going around and, kind of thinking about himself and his identity. You're right that this is not necessarily like goofy or anything like that, but it is very, contemplative, right? Like, very grounded in that way. King going through somewhat of an identity crisis, I think is fair to say. Really trying to understand who he is, and also in relation to the Titan, right? Like what that means for him. So he's going around basically the Titan, and like he's trying to connect as in whatever way he can, right? Like with this giant bone finger sticking out of the ground, he like gives it a little hug, which is very like sweet and heartwarming.
This is great. I really liked this whole bit.
Yeah,
I
really did too. I enjoyed it a lot. And then them just like kind of riding around, right? And then meanwhile, freaking Hootie is like a helicopter riding around us.
I don't know why it made me think of Inspector Gadget.
Yeah, it's totally Inspector Gadget. Oh my gosh. Go Gadget Hootie.
Go Hootie helicopter.
Oh my gosh. Hilarious. It wouldn't surprise me if that was like part of the inspo for that.
Hyrule, I mean, first of all, they already did open the box and we know what's inside, and it's not toenails. Second of all, if somebody were opening that box looking for Ida's toenails, they'd be real disappointed. They wouldn't be doing anything with those toenails because they ain't there. All they find is a lump of wood, and they'd just be like, "Oh man, trying to get off, and all I get is this lump of
my gosh,
birch."
Stop. I'm ignoring that.
Don't tell me to stop, tell Hyrule to stop. They're the one getting at it.
I'm ignoring all of you. Anyway, meanwhile, the King and Steve are playing in the water, throwing and skipping rocks. And then we see this cute old couple in the background, right? Like these two old grannies in the background, just being adorable, holding hands and blushing, being very, very sweet and heartwarming, which makes Steve tear up and fall to the ground and start crying, which is a little funny, but also just really goes to show where these two characters are, right? In questioning their desires, questioning what they've been doing. They're lonely. Yeah, exactly. Poor Steve.
It's the Logan thing, this is what life is all about. Right. This is what you're missing.
Right. Just holding hands and walking and being sweet and being close to someone, right?
And getting swole.
Meanwhile, Hootie is like following them because of like their scent or whatever, and of course the tire tracks that they're following, right? And this is also a very sweet moment, right, where Steve and King come across these two random people who are in need of some help, right? This one person is obviously somewhat sick. They got like this thing on their head and the crutch, and then they have like this child with them, right? And King and Steve are helping them change the tire, which is just really sweet, right? It kind of reminded me, that moment, since we kind of talked about Avatar already, that moment just kind of reminded me of like the Zuko Alone episode, right? Where like they're just going around.
absolute best episodes of the series.
Yes, yes, easily. It just kind of reminded me of like, Zuko going around like doing these mundane things with the average people and kind of just like seeing what the world is like and kind of figuring
And
out
seeing how much the world hates the people he represents.
Right. But then just kind of like figuring out who he is through those acts of service, right? So I feel like Steve and King are
Yeah.
kind of doing a similar thing here.
I cannot stop hearing Steve and King as Stephen King.
Yeah, I know. I think someone in the chat said that too.
Every time you say it, it sounds like Stephen King, and I'm just
Maybe
imagining Stephen King going around and just like doing light motor vehicle maintenance and helping people.
maybe I should say King and Steve instead.
That's what happens in the Zuko episode. Like
Right, right.
someone's Ford Fiesta is pulled over on the side of the road, and he's like, yeah, let me take a look at it.
Yeah, exactly.
He's like, yeah, see your batteries come unplugged. That's a problem.
Yeah.
I loved that bit. Yeah, I really liked the reveal that Zuko knew how to fix engines.
Yeah, really goes to show how much we learned about his character. Anyway,
I don't know where I'm going with this bit.
We're making too many gags in this stream. We need to get a move on. King, lying down in the puddle in the same pose as the Titan, right? Like just trying to emulate his father essentially, and trying to just get a better idea of what it's like, right? To like be a Titan. What does it mean for him? What does it mean to be a Titan? And then Steve giving him this little origami thing that he made out of the ripped pages in the book, right? So first of all, he ripped the pages out of the book, which goes to show how he's kind of rejecting, right, the coven system and like what he's supposed to be, in favor of making this little cute gift, this little cute origami witch for King. And Tom, you actually made a connection with this origami thing that I thought was interesting, and could be a reference, considering what's going on in this episode. So I want you to talk about that a bit.
Before I get to that, I do want to. It's been pointed out in the chat, but I pointed out earlier him lying in the puddle in the Titan pose.
Yeah.
I just think it's a really powerful image. I like that they. I like that they did a lot of kind of character stuff without dialogue, and there's just lots of little kind of bits.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just trying to get into that, trying to connect in some way with this corpse of this creature that he's lying on.
Right, totally.
And not really knowing what he's doing, but just like trying something. It's like throwing spaghetti at the wall.
Yeah, it's really sweet.
But anyway, yes, one of the first things I pointed out to you in our own chat when Steve puts the little origami figure. I think it's meant to be an origami figure of the Titan, with the little horns. My first thought was of Gaff in Blade Runner. And just as it's become cliche for you to make the stream about Buffy, I think it's probably something of a cliche for me to make the stream about Blade Runner.
Yeah, exactly. Blade Runner is to you what Buffy is to me.
I don't think that's true. I think Cowboy Bebop is to me what Buffy is to you, but I do love Blade Runner. I think, like, jokes aside, like, Blade Runner has created a lot of like cultural iconography that has been regurgitated.
Yes.
And the symbology of origami figures in Western media has been almost wholly shaped by Blade Runner.
Yeah,
like Blade Runner did things with origami, like there have been entire books written about the origami unicorn and what it represents in that movie, and the idea is that Gaff, he has a calling card, right? Because they're basically freelancers, they're not cops, they're bounty hunters, right? And Gaff doesn't do the killing himself. He's injured, right? He's got the walking stick. Deckard does the killing. Gaff just points out who to kill, and Gaff leaves origami figures in the places where he finds replicants, right? And then this comes back into play at the very end of the movie when it's brought into question whether or not Deckard might be a replicant.
Right.
And he leaves an origami unicorn, and this connects to a dream that Deckard had earlier in the movie. But the symbol, right, of the origami figure, because of Blade Runner, has become a symbol of questioning one's identity. And I don't just mean questioning one's identity in terms of like your standard midlife crisis. I mean in a truly existential sense of what am I?
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, what am I? What am I in the world that I'm living in, right?
Yeah,
So
what
it's
am
this
I and what does that
really,
mean, right?
yeah, what am I and what does it mean? In the same sense as, like, what does it, is Deckard human, or is he a replicant? And
Right.
what does that mean? Does that even matter?
Right.
Right? Does it make a difference to one's state of being? That is how I read this, right? He's
Yeah,
plopping
yeah,
this little, he's
totally.
like, King is in this state of his life where it's like, okay, now I know what I am. What do I do with that information? Like, what does that mean for me?
Totally,
Who does
totally.
that make me? And so he leaves this little origami titan on his nose, and that, I think, is a reference to Blade Runner. I think that I don't even know if I call it a reference to Blade Runner. I think I'd call it like using Blade Runner as an intertextual reference
Right.
to kind of draw from that symbology that was created by Blade Runner to kind of ask interesting questions. And
Yeah.
I like that.
I really love that interpretation. Whether it was intentional or not, I think that's just a great reading of those symbols. And considering that so much of King's arc in this episode is done visually and done through those visual languages, I really love that interpretation a lot. So thank you for sharing that. Yes, he was in the same pose as the Titan. Exactly, right? Like, just trying to connect with the Titan, like, through that visual language, I think is really powerful. All right, so back to the warehouse, the precinct warehouse. Ida is overhearing this conversation between this guard captain and Rain, and Rain, right, is like, "Bring the owl lady to me. Your results don't mean anything. Just go do it," right? And meanwhile, Ida comes in and she hits redial on the orb, right, and calls Rain back, and Rain is like, really surprised to see Ida, right? And at this point in the story, Ida doesn't necessarily know that Rain is, like, not brainwashed, but of course Ida has the faith that there is something, at least in Rain, that cares, because in the previous Follies at the Coven Day Parade episode, Rain did let Ida go, right? And of course, we know now, looking back at those episodes, that Rain was never brainwashed, and in fact was just trying to act in such a way to keep Ida intentionally in the dark, for the sake of protecting her, right?
Zoe bringing up the origami killer from Heavy Rain. The origami killer, the use of origami as a calling card for the origami killer in Heavy Rain is a reference to Blade Runner. It's just a really half-assed one. And we know that because David Cage said it's a reference to Blade Runner. It's just that David Cage is a terrible writer, and I don't think he thought that hard about what the symbology of the origami was. He was just like, oh, that's cool. He leaves origami in places, so I can do a serial killer who leaves origami in places where he kills his victims. And it's like, fuck, David, go home. Please stop making games.
Concentrated sheep, the foreshadowing that the Titan needs a person on the nose to be sacrificed. If that ends up being true, that'd be really funny. So Ida is talking to Rain, right? And Rain, of course, does want to protect them and wants to do the right thing, right? And now that Ida has admitted that she knows about the draining spell, about the Day of Unity, and Rain really can't hide that fact anymore, right? And as we know, Rain is a terrible liar and can't hide this expression, the fact that it really is that bad, right? And I'm glad that these characters finally get this, like, reconciliation, get this moment to, like, be at least a little bit honest with each other, right? And Ida just beckoning that she really doesn't want anything other than to keep Luz and King safe, right? And really ask Rain here to help her out with figuring out how to keep them safe, right? A bunker or an airship or whatever, just keep them safe, right?
Indeed.
And she even says, like, I'll give myself up right now, which is really, like, heartbreaking, because of course she still thinks that, like, Rain wants to arrest her, and, like, Ida, my heart.
He doesn't even know that Rain and Daddy Darius, they've got a thing.
They've already got a plan going, right? Meanwhile, Terra, shows up in the background. Terra Snapdragon comes by, and of course they cannot speak as freely with Terra right there, on Rain's ass, ready to manipulate and do their thing. And Rain goes back to Ida, and of course Ida's very quick and very smart, and she's back in her disguise, right? And is able to play this off. And Rain is able to speak a little bit in code and says, stay put, I'll send someone to receive the package, of course referring to Luce, right? And so Rain is willing to work with Ida, at least on this.
Can I say something really dumb?
Sure, go ahead.
This is really dumb. I'm really sorry for them.
Oh God.
When you said Terra is there, I had this just like immediate urge to say Terra is there. I just want you to know I had to physically restrain myself from saying that.
Okay, good. I'm glad we got that out of the way. Luz overhears this conversation, right? And she's obviously feeling betrayed and heartbroken at the fact that Ida wants to send her away, right? Saying that she can help, and she's like yelling, saying call Rain back. They're overheard by this guard, unfortunately, and of course they get attacked, right? Luce really just being stubborn in that she wants to help, she wants to be involved, and then Ida saying like, no, I don't want you around, and Luce interpreting this as Ida thinking that she's like weak, right? Like not able to help, that Ida is underestimating her, which of course we know is not what's going on here, right? But this disconnect between the two of them is what causes this tension in this episode.
Indeed.
Ida goes harpy mode, right? Saying that Rain will keep you safe, and that I can make you. Luz being like, you can't make me. Ida saying, yes, I can. And they get into a altercation, right? Obviously, we know that they're not about to hurt each other in this little battle that they've got here, but it's hard, right? It's hard to watch these two like fight each other when we know that they just want to like keep the other one's safe, right? Like this was a hard scene to watch in like a heartbreaking way.
Yeah, it's unusual to see them like fight.
Yeah.
Functionally. Yeah, but it's fine. It all works out in the end.
Right.
It all works out in the end.
Exactly. Yeah. So let's see what happens here. Luce, she does this cool slidey ice thing, which I just gotta say is really awesome. Luce just continues to level up with her glyph use. Like she's just becoming better and better at using the glyphs to fight, which is really awesome to just see. Ida is like, Rain will be here to take you, and King will join you. It's time to go, right? But of course they are stopped by the scouts, the guards, and they are captured also by the abomination robots, right? And these guys are able to take down Harpy Ida, which is kind of scary.
Is she really trying though?
I don't know. That's a good question. That's a good point.
Because I don't think she's really trying to fight here.
Right. Okay, so this was probably my favorite scene in the episode with King and Steve. I really, really enjoyed this. They're just hanging out, eating some burgers, drinking some sodas, eating some fries, right? They're just having a good time, hanging out and just being adorable. Steve is like, hey, your drink's getting warm, and King is like, King is finally able to relate to what Steve has been kind of going through too, right? So King admits that he wanted to command respect and fear, but now that he sort of has that, he realizes that it's not what he really wants, right? And Steve has this wonderful line, right? Wants can change, people can change, and he has like this just majestic moment where the wind blows and his leather jacket is like looking all cool. God, I love Steve. They made him so cool.
Steve is just hot, okay?
He really is.
I told you. People told me I was crazy. They told me I was crazy. My parents abandoned me.
They said it couldn't be done.
They said it couldn't be done, and I said literally last stream, I was like, I'm telling you, we're getting the Steve face reveal soon. Steve's gonna be hot.
Look at him. Look at that face.
Just look at him. Look at that fucking face.
Look at that beautiful face.
Is the poster boy for Esquire magazine. or I guess it would be Hex Squire
There
magazine.
we go. There we go.
Um, he I'm just looking forward to his blues rock album that he's got coming out in a couple of months. I've heard the first couple of singles from it,
Oh
and
my
they're very
gosh.
promising. It's a really
Yeah,
promising material,
right.
I've got to say.
Right. But, jokes aside, I think it is really nice that Steve and King are having just like this connecting moment, right? Where King realizes that like being this ruling titan is not what he necessarily wants, and Steve realizing that being a coven scout, right, is not necessarily what he wants either. And it's just a really sweet moment of connection between the two. And of course the face reveal was quite nice to see that Steve was hot. And all I'm gonna say is I am ready to ride in your sidecar, Steve, anytime, any day,
Anywhere, any
anywhere. Take
place.
me away, drive me away, Steve. I'm ready.
Zoe saying, I would call it chips. I wouldn't. Fries and chips are different things. That there's a misconception that in the UK we call all kind of like potatoy stick things chips. We don't. Chips are a different thing. Fries are the French fries, right? The thin ones,
Yeah,
the good ones, in other words.
yeah.
Chips are the big chonky ones, and they're just wrong. I don't like those at all. I'm not a fan of chips. I do like fries,
Fair
but
enough.
like they got to be thin, they got to be crisp.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
That's how it's got
Also,
to be.
Umbreon, that is, I think that's the question that Steve is asking himself. Like, why is he single, right? I mean, we saw him crying at the old lady couple earlier. So I think Steve is realizing that he's single because he's been focusing too much on being a coven scout, and now it's time for him to, live his life, meet some people, get laid.
You know what they say? Get paid, get laid, Gatorade.
Exactly. That's Steve's new motto.
If that became Steve's new motto, if he showed up with a T-shirt that had that on it, I would die. My whole ass would fall out.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Anyway, enough with the chip talk. Lilith shows up and
I'm like you've got a real chip on your shoulder. Ha!
oh my goodness.
Got him.
You're ridiculous.
Thank you. I'm here all week.
Oh god. Anyway,
Please,
so
thank my wife, please.
shut up. So King, finally does confront Lilith, right? Saying like, "Hey, I'm still the same person. Please don't treat me differently." And he actually calls out Lilith in this moment too, right? Like, I'm sensing a bit of a pattern here with you. Didn't you do this with Bellows? And of course, Steve can relate to this as well. He has this wonderful line where he says, "Hey girl, I've been there. I can recommend a good therapist." And I just want to say congratulations to Steve. A plus. Like, just huge kudos to Steve for being the first character to canonically go to therapy. We love to see it. Congratulations. Apparently there's therapy on the Boiling Isles, and why everyone is not going and seeing a therapist, I don't know. Definitely Lilith needs to see a therapist for sure.
If we do get to see, if we get a look at who this therapist is, if they're not just a reference to Sean from Good Will Hunting, I will be pursuing legal action against Dana Terrace and the rest of the Owl House riding team.
Yes, totally.
And I would be morally right in doing so.
Absolutely. Hootie, this is a funny little just light moment of levity where Hootie attacks Steve and knocks him out of the frame in a very comedic way. I just thought that was funny. Steve doesn't deserve that. Steve deserves better.
Yeah, Steve really didn't deserve to get sucker punched like that by a terrifying tube demon.
Especially after all the work he did in therapy. But yes, congratulations to Steve.
All that work has just been completely undone.
Morgan, I think a lot of people are speculating whether Steve is related to Matholomew, which I don't know. Maybe they could be. They look kind of similar. I wouldn't be mad if they weren't related also, but it'd be kind of funny if they were.
You don't lie, you would be. You were telling me I'm doing an expose right now for everyone in the chat. One of the first things Covey said to me today, he was like, Tom, I got to be honest with you. If it turns out that Steve isn't related to Bartholomew, I'm gonna harm some people. I'm gonna do some harm.
Okay.
And to be honest, I was kind of scared. I'm kind of scared.
I'm ignoring you. I'm ignoring you.
I'm just being honest
We
with the
got to get
chat.
through this episode. We have 5 minutes left. They're locked up. They're about to get sent to petrification, right? And then we see Luz. She's got tears in her eyes, right? This again was a really hard scene to watch just because of like how upset Luz really is, right? And she's like, "Was that your great plan? Now neither of us can stop Belos because we got captured." And she's like, "Why couldn't you have just let me help you with your stupid plan? Is it because I'm a kid? Is it because you think I'm weak?" Right? Like she's internalized like all these issues that she like thinks she has, that she sees in herself, right? And she thinks that these are the reasons why Ida would not want to clue her into the plan. But of course this allows Ida to finally be honest in what she was thinking, right? And she says, "That's because I don't have a plan," right? And then we see the tears in her eyes too as she admits that they don't have a plan, they don't have magic, they're useless, and how she just wants to keep Luz and King safe, right? And yeah, this was just really heartbreaking, but also I'm glad that these two finally were honest with each other about their feelings. Ida unintentionally hurting Luz, and Luz finally understanding like where Ida's coming from, this fear that Ida has, right? And finally understanding that. And they say like it's all over, and they get separated and thrown right into the backs of these cars. And there's a really heartbreaking line from Luz where she says, like,
I'll fight back, yeah.
Yeah, like, "I'll listen to you now. I'll do whatever you say. Just please fight back," right? And it was really hard for me to hear that line from Luz, just in a heartbreaking way, right? Like, it kind of reminded me of just Luz's feelings about abandonment and fear of abandonment, right? Like we learned a few episodes ago that her father passed away, and we know that she still has a lot of baggage related to that. This also kind of reminded me of just the beginning of the series, right? Where we saw Luz's mom sending her away to camp, right? So just like this idea of being separated from her parental figure, and just like that fear. This just kind of reminded me of that, and like it made sense for me for Luz to have this kind of reaction based off of like how we've seen her deal with similar issues before. And yeah, my poor baby Luz.
Man, this is so sad. Yeah. Alexa, play Despacito.
Exactly.
You really need to fix Nightbot, because Nightbot has gone on an absolute
I'm
purge.
so sorry. I have not taken a look at Nightbot yet.
For no reason. Like I'm looking back at some of these messages, and it's like, come on, Nightbot. Calm down.
I'm sorry. I'll try to go fix it. Maybe
insane.
During the break.
Nightbot is a cop, and you know what we say about cops.
True. Fair enough.
That all cops are bad at cuddling.
Anyway, so this was a really reassuring reveal, right? Like I feel like we were all holding our breath, and now we were finally able to let that go and breathe. At least I was.
I feel like we knew this is where it was going. Like the second Rain was brought into it, it's like, okay,
I know,
it's gonna be fine. Like Rain's gonna intervene, and it's gonna be okay. Like,
I know. But it was still like a moment of relief, right? To finally see
the real thing that I was screaming over was finally getting to, like, we knew Darius was involved, but getting like, just seeing him here in this place, being a rebel is just great.
I love that everyone is together at this point too, right? Like Steve and King are here too. Shout out to Steve, just being cool in the background with his freaking motorcycle.
Stephen King is here? Oh my god, can I get his autograph?
Stop. I'm ignoring you. Shut up. No, King and Steve have also joined us here now. And of course, Rain's little rebellion group have all broken out of the Conformatorium, and we see them in the background too. Really excited to see them back again. Really, really awesome. And then of course, the reveal that Everwolf and Daddy Darius are here too. Let's go.
Yeah.
I'm gonna set you down. Please try not to bite anyone. I love that he just like sees Luz as this like feral creature.
Getting to see Luz interact with Darius is great. Getting
It's
to see
so
Luz
good.
interact with Rain is amazing.
Yes, yes, I love it. Shout out to Steve and his little rocker hand. Love it, love it. Eberwolf bites the ropes off of Luz and lets her go. King is there, gives him a hug, and yes, I was so happy to see this. You know, Rain and Luz finally properly meeting. Rain saying, "Ida's been bragging about you for hours." That was really, really sweet, right? Like just classic. You know, very loving, gushing parental figure that Ida is, bragging about her daughter Luz is just really, really sweet. And them actually meeting properly for the first time is really, really nice. I know people have been kind of waiting for this, and you know, seeing Luz's like reaction too is just really sweet because we know that Luz has heard about Rain as well.
All I can say is I just hope that Rain's dodge roll is stronger than Ida's and
They
Luz's
have
dodge roll,
got to
they
have
are
been practicing, I
pathetic.
swear. If they have not been practicing, I don't even know what they've been doing with their time.
I could be wrong about this, but Darius has the physique of a man who's very good at dodge rolling. I'm
Yeah.
just saying.
Yeah.
You
It
know,
could just be superficial though, right? He might just be like, "Oh, I don't want to dodge roll because it'll get my cape dirty or whatever." But anyway, jokes aside, you know, we finally get kind of the confirmation of like the timeline of when Rain and Darius, you know, got together and when they were starting to plan their rebellion. So apparently Darius has been suspicious about the Day of Unity for a while, which I think a lot of us kind of speculated because we know that he had like that relationship with the Golden Guards and the previous Golden Guards in the past. And so we really don't know how much he knows about, you know, Hunter
yeah.
and the Grimwalkers and all of that. But all of that really seemed to imply to us that he was like not cool with this for a while. But it's good to know that he was actually not cool with this for a while, and just that he was not sure where the other coven heads were, right, on this Day of Unity situation. But of course, like when they teamed up with Rain, so Darius did actually try to capture Rain in the episode we saw previously, Ida's Requiem, right? And Rain didn't know that Darius was like a good guy at that point.
But Darius did know. This was one of the mutual kind of, I don't even know if to call it a prediction. It's just like putting two and two together to equal four. Like it's either going to be one situation or another. And the other situation we said was, you know, probably Darius was involved, you know, in some way, because we see him get like we see him consume Rain in the goo.
Right.
You can kind of figure that Darius was probably involved in their sort of just staying on. God, where are the words?
I got what you mean. Yeah.
You know what I mean. We knew that it was probably Darius putting his foot into it somehow.
Right. Totally.
Which now we know that he did.
Yes. We get this little interaction between Steve and Lilith too, right? Where Steve is like, "Oh, did you know that all this was going on?" Of course, Lilith had no idea. She was completely in the dark. And she says, "I'm starting to think I wasn't very good at my job," right? Which again is just like this. I love this, how much little bits of character building we're getting with Lilith too, right? We know that she has like this flaw of wanting approval, wanting to praise these people that she deems as like great, whether or not they actually are, right? She like will see them as that and like want their approval and want their affirmations, right? So I like that we're getting this realization, right? Like Lilith looking back on her previous mistakes and previous situations where maybe she is questioning what she did or what she knew, which I really appreciate. And was also quite funny. You know, I'm starting to think I wasn't very good at my job. And
she wasn't very good at her job, was she?
No, she really wasn't. And then we get that like coming full circle, right, with Rain and Ida, and of course the parallel with Ida and Luz, right, where Rain admits to Ida, "Is it so unbelievable that I wanted to keep you safe?" Right, which I'm very glad they didn't drag this on any longer. I'm glad that we're finally communicating and we're finally here at the same place and we're finally working together. It was going to be really annoying to me if they were going to keep like miscommunicating and lying to each other, but no, we're finally
have that
here.
lead to some canned drama that no one cares about.
Exactly. So I'm really glad that we've kind of like dealt with that, and now we're here and we're ready to go.
We're here, we're queer, and we're full of existential fear.
So true. So true. Of course, Luz cannot move forward without the knowledge of whether they have a cool rebel name or not.
Oh, I love this bit.
I love this bit so much. I really love the dynamic between Rain and Darius. Can I just say, like, I love that they like respect each other and they like know that the other person is like a really great witch, but they also have like this "you're such like a cheese ball" kind of attitude towards each other. Like, it just really tickles me.
It's funny because like Rain, I mean, they established that they established that Rain has stage fright,
right? Yeah.
But clearly has a flair for, already wants to have a flair for, showmanship.
Right.
Whereas Darius kind of naturally has an air of showmanship about him because he's just constantly so extra.
Right.
But is actually very reserved.
Right, exactly. So I love that kind of like clashing between the two of them. I think it's really fun. It makes for a fun dynamic. And Darius just like putting his fingers to his temple and being like, "We talked about this. I hate this freaking name. I did not approve of this." And Rain just being like, we're the freaking cats. It's just really cute and really funny. AKA
I'm with Darius on this one, to be honest.
the cats. And then they all do like a little hissy sound, and Darius is just like, "I'm so done with this bullshit."
All it made me think of was Cats the musical, and I really didn't want to think about that.
Yeah. Oh my god, totally. And then Luz pulling up her hoodie and just being like, "Everything's coming full circle, baby." That was fun. That was hilarious. That was so good. That tickled me. I love Luz. I love Rain. I love that they're all together now. Makes me so happy.
Rain is such a dork-ass loser.
yeah, definitely. Can we talk just for a brief second about how in this little, rebel headquarters that they've got here, Rain has the flower, the flower from the hill, the flower from the window, the Ida Rain flower, orange flower above the door, and that's just really gay and really sweet, and I am obsessed.
Nightbot is honestly beating people with its nightstick with complete impunity, just total impunity.
I'm gonna fix it during the break. I'm gonna see if I can fix it during the break. And then
oozing out of the birdhouse. Oh.
And then of course we get this really sweet conclusion to the episode, right? Francois is returned to King, and then we finally get this box, right? Ida's longest toenails with this disgusting drawing of the toenails on it, which is quite funny. But of course Luz opens it and discovers the palistrom wood, right? Ida was hiding it in this box, and we finally are here carving the palisman, right? Ida pulls out the little carving knife. Luz is actually a bit unsure at first, right? She's like, "I don't know if this is the right time. We have to stop Belos." But I really love that Ida and Luz just have this moment, right, of like reassurance of like, "You're not alone. We have teammates now. We've got a plan," right? And Luz, of course, still being hesitant. She had that fear in the Palisman episode that the Palisman were not gonna like her or be her friend, and of course she's gonna have that worry with the Palisman that she carves as well too, right? But King reassures her and says like, "You've befriended more enemies than I have claws on my paw," which is very, very sweet. Reassuring Luz that of course the Palisman is gonna like her. It's gonna be fine. And then this really just sweet moment of reassurance from Ida to Luz, right? Like, "You're smart, you're quick, and you're reliable. What's not to like," right? Just, I love that, all of the horrible stuff that's been happening over the past few episodes, all these like action, go kind of like, the stakes are so high. We're almost to the Day of Unity, the stress that we've been having. I like that we are having this kind of calm before the storm moment where we are able to just like sit and reflect and be with each other. The final nice day as you would have it, right? So I really enjoyed this scene.
I have a question that I'd like to pose to everybody present.
Yes.
What happens if you carve out of the oh my god, Nightbot, calm down, Nightbot. Seriously. What happens if you carve out of your Palestrom wood just a little man?
Just a little guy.
Just a little, just a human man. Just a little human man. Like, what would happen if, for instance, I don't know, like Luce.
He becomes your child now. Oh, he becomes like little Elfer in Hilda.
What if? Yeah, but what if it's not like a full man? What if it's just like a really detailed bust? Like, what if Luce just like carved a bust of, I
Bob
don't know,
Hoskins.
Friggin' Scatman Crothers' face. What happens? Does she just have Scatman Crothers now? Is her Palisman Scatman Crothers?
I think that's how that works.
What would that like? How would Ida react? Like, oh, that's what you went with, huh? You went with Scatman Crothers? Interesting.
Oh my gosh,
Interesting. Okay.
You are so ridiculous. Yeah,
I'm asking the important questions that no one else
that
is
I don't want to know the answers to, honestly.
Because you're a coward.
I will happily live in fear of Scatman Crothers' Palisman. Little tiny Hootie's already gonna give me nightmares. I don't need anything else.
I just want everybody present in the chat right now to just Google Scatman Crothers. So if you don't know who he is, and just imagine that head on a stick, and that's Luce's Palisman.
Morgan saying it makes sense of Luce still being insecure. I totally agree. Let's see. Yeah, so I would love to hear if anyone has any predictions as to what Luce's Palisman is going to be. I've heard a lot of speculation. A lot of people have their theories. I would love the idea of it being kind of something hybrid, like I think Willow's Palisman is like part bee, part hummingbird, right? It's like kind of a chimera in that way. So I think it would be totally possible for Luce to have some sort of chimera.
Does that mean it's a bumming bird?
Yes, she's got a bumming bird. But I've heard a lot of people say that Luce is going to have a bat as her Palisman. I think that would make a lot of sense. That would also kind of connect her to the Bat Queen in some way too. I feel like I've got a lot of questions now about the Bat Queen too. Like, whose Palisman was she? Was she actually the original Titan's Palisman? A lot more questions I have about the Bat Queen now.
Well, I mean, the Bat Queen is just a head. I mean, she's a head with wings. True. She's just like a human. She's just a big human head with wings.
But yeah, could Luce do a Palisman like that? Is it going to be some sort of a cat? Is it going to be some sort of an otter? Is it going to be a snake? I've heard a lot of predictions. I would love to hear what you guys think Luce's Palisman is going to be. My money is on bat or bat hybrid of some kind. I feel like that's going to be the most likely.
My money is on Scatman Crothers' head, but with wings, bat wings and feet.
Oh my god! If that actually ends up being what it is, I will lose my whole shit.
I literally, if Dana Terrace did that, she would officially be the greatest writer of all time in all of history. Like, step aside, Bill Shakespeare, you hack.
God. Oh my god.
Scatman Crothers with bat wings and feet.
Luz will make a little miniature Amity. Yes, it'll just be a little mini Amity. It could be an otter with a dark side. Could be a snake. Could be a catacoo, a bird and snake.
These are all weak ass suggestions. I'm sorry, like nothing. It's Scatman.
It could be a griffin. Yeah, no, I'm really curious as to what it's gonna be, but I feel like these kind of last minute predictions are fun. I love hearing. It could be a Snorse. Totally right, Zoe. Totally right. It could be a Snorse. Cool. All right. Well, let's go ahead and just take a quick 5-minute break. We only have about an hour to talk about Amphibia. We'll talk about the rest of All In, some brief thoughts on the finale, and then of course we'll go more deeper into the finale next week. But let's go ahead for now, take a quick 5-minute break. In the meantime, if you want to keep putting your prediction for what Luce's Palisman is going to be in the chat, please do. I'm going to go ahead and see if I can take a look at Nightbot in this in-between time, and we'll be back in just a few minutes. Oh, unless, Tom, you have anything else you want to say about this episode.
No, I feel like my Scatman Crothers prediction is genius enough for me to kind of leave it on that note.
True, true, very true. And I also just want to add that I think it's nice that Ida reminds us that she carved her palisman with her dad, and now she's going to be passing on the knowledge to Luz. I just think that that's really sweet. Kind of just ties home that this is like a family activity, right? And that Luz and Ida are very much family at this point. So I just wanted to add that. I thought that was really sweet. And also this final shot of the Titan was just really beautiful. The backgrounds of the show continue to be amazing, and I just wanted to add that. All
And
right.
our perspective on the Titan has completely changed from
Yes, that
from a
too,
couple of
right?
episodes
I feel
ago.
like that's a good point too. Like our knowledge of the Titan, we are seeing this entity differently and in a different light, right? Quite literally and figuratively.
Indeed.
Alrighty, let's go ahead and take a quick break. I'm gonna use the best doom and then try to see if I can fix Nightbot, and we'll be back in just a few minutes. Alrighty, we're gonna go ahead and come on back. Tom had to use the restroom, so he is gonna be a couple minutes still before he's back, but we're gonna go ahead and get started. So we are gonna finish talking about All In before we get to the actual finale properly first. So that is where we are now. I think about where we left off. So we got the do we talk about the Marcy part? I think we're about like 17-18 minutes ish from the end. Yeah, we didn't get to Grime yet. We didn't get to this fight yet. I think we just got to the start of Andreas and Anne fighting. So we still have quite a bit of this episode to get to. So I don't know if we're gonna quite make it to the end of this episode or even if we're gonna talk much about the finale, but we're about 20-ish minutes from the end of All In, so that's where we're gonna leave off. Yes, thank you for all of the links, Shia. Really appreciate that. And yes, hopefully Nightbot is a little bit more forgiving now. I just changed some of the settings, so hopefully that works a little bit better for y'all. All right, let's go ahead and get back into our All In discussion. Thank you all so much for sticking around and being here for this part of our discussion today. So Anne, we saw her talking to the planters and deciding that she needed to be the one to go fight Andreas. This is like kind of her moment of coming into who she believes she is, right? Standing up for what's right, not doing what other people want her to do, and instead, standing up on her own for what she knows is right? And so she comes and she fights Andreas, and we get this kind of a dialogue between the two, right? Where Andreas is like, oh gosh, how come I'm not getting subtitles on this? Anyway. English sub, please. Yeah, so Andreas convinces Anne to fight on her own, and she's like, okay, I let people walk all over me. I love myself now. I'm gonna go fight, right? And that's kind of where we left off.
I'm here. I'm back.
You're here. You're just in time too. I just figured out where we left off.
Oh.
So we figured out we left off where Andreas and Anne were just about to fight, right? Andreas tells Anne that he underestimated her, and that underneath it all, she was a real warrior. Brilliant deception. Anne says, like, speak for yourself, right? You went from Santa Claus to supervillain, and we established, right, that Andreas knows who Santa Claus is, which is kind of funny. And then they start to fight, right? Because Andreas knows that there's a time limit on her powers, and their fight begins. And I just gotta say, the animation again in this whole sequence was really awesome. They really brought their A game for this episode, and I really enjoyed this whole action sequence. Amphibia has always been really good with the action as well, in addition to the comedy and the character writing. So I'm really glad that we got some really fun action in this episode too.
Yeah, this is where Matt Brawley's inner weeb starts to show, because he very unashamedly goes as full anime as humanly possible.
Yeah, totally. And like there's a lot of anime references both in this episode and in the finale, right? Which we just love to see. I love when creators just put their unabashed love for stuff in episodes, and there's a lot of love for other stuff in Amphibia.
Yeah, and the next episode makes a whole load of anime references, but it also makes a reference to an anime that I did not expect it to make a reference to, so slightly more obscure one. So that was fun.
That is fun. That's interesting. Yeah, we'll have to talk about that once we get to that episode. Just a reminder for everyone here and for Tom, we're going to be finishing up our discussion of All In today, if we can get to the end, that is, and then give some brief thoughts on the finale, and then we'll go more in depth in the finale next week. So we're cutting back and forth, right, between Anne and Andreas and Darcy and Sasha, and even the Darcy and Sasha and Grime, of course, fight, right? Like, this whole fight was really awesome. Again, the animation was incredible. Darcy is just such a fun villain as well, too, right? Grime says, "I'll fight her while you go for the generator," and he does some sick moves, right, with the Warhammer. But of course, she blocks him, and Darcy throws this like fire dagger at Sasha, and it hits her ankle, and like. This fight was actually pretty brutal, all things considering. Like,
kind of savage.
Yeah, considering how this is like a kid show, right? And like we've never really seen action quite this brutal before in the show, other than at the very end of True Colors, right? But this was quite scary, quite like tense, at least while I was watching this. So Sasha gets hit right in the ankle or in the leg with the dagger, and she falls over. This spin was really awesome too, like just in an animation way. Like Darcy spinning the scythe was so awesome, and then her standing over Sasha with the scythe was so scary. And of course, Sasha is afraid, and we get this huge moment, right? This huge heroic moment from Grime. Grime runs and pushes Sasha out of the way just before Darcy swings the scythe down. And then we just see the arm falling, right? The silhouette of the arm falling with the three of them off to the side. And I don't know about you guys, but I definitely gasped. My jaw was on the floor when I saw this. I was not expecting this at all, and it was really, really shocking.
So we've all seen the finale, right? Like we've all seen.
Yeah.
We've all of us here present have finished all of
Spoilers
Amphibia,
for the finale.
Right?
We are going to briefly talk about it. Yeah.
So first of all, there was all that like supposed hinting that Anne was going to lose an arm.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
But then Grime lost an arm. And then there was all the hinting that like Sasha was going to lose an eye, and then no one lost a bloody eye. Do you reckon that was something they were actually going to do, but they wouldn't let them do it because it was too macabre?
I don't know. I feel like the Sasha losing an eye theory, while there was a lot of fun connections that people were making, like, oh, everyone that Sasha's in this scene only has one eye. That means Sasha's going to lose an eye.
They did that a lot.
Yeah, I think that it was fun, but probably now looking back, probably unintentional.
I don't know if it was unintentional. I just don't know if it was intentional to suggest she was going to lose an eye. It makes me wonder if it was intentional to imply something else.
Right.
Just something thematic, you know.
Maybe, yeah, maybe.
Like, I don't know, her duplicity as a character, or I don't know.
Yeah.
But it feels like way too omnipresent to be accidental.
Good point. Well, Sasha did lose her whole back. Ouch. But yeah, the way that this whole scene was framed and lit, I totally agree too, and that it was awesome. And yeah, it's surprising that we were all expecting Anne to lose an arm, and it ended up being Grime. Like, wow, definitely surprised me. Did not see it coming.
Are you saying that we should go and chop off Anne's arm?
Right? Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying.
Like, look, I'm sorry. Look, this is just how it has to be.
Yeah. And then we get this really kind of like sweet emotional moment, right, between Sasha and Grime. Grime, you big dummy, Sasha calls him, and then Grime, tells Sasha, like, before I met you, I was just a bully, and then you inspired me to be so much more. This was definitely a touching moment for me. As you all know, I really love Grime. He's one of my favorite like side characters in the show. And I really love Grime and Sasha's relationship. I love how much they respect each other, how much they kind of like see each other as equals, and how much they acknowledge like how much the other person has like done for them. It's just really sweet. I really, really enjoyed this interaction. It was heartbreaking. And of course, in a similar way that Sprig being in danger was the thing that kind of activated Anne into her rage mode. I like how it's kind of similar with Sasha, right? That Grime being harmed is what kind of activates her rage mode, right? And this is where we know, like, oh man, Darcy, you just made a huge mistake, because now Sasha is going to kick your ass.
You friggin' goofed.
You freaking fucked up. And Darcy, of course, having that horrible and hilarious line, oops, looks like he's disarmed. Oh my gosh, right? Like, I just wanted to scream.
He's a few fingers short of a high five.
No, ouch. ouch. But I loved seeing Sasha go rage mode. I loved seeing her just absolutely like lose it and like go after Darcy. And again, just the action and the fight choreography and the animation in this whole sequence is A+, really, really awesome. And of course, we cut back to Anne and Andreas as well, right? And they've got their whole epic fight going on. I love that we at least see a lot of our background characters, a lot of our side characters that we met through season 1, right? There's Jan and Terry over there, and oh gosh, what's his name? The Hop Hop lookalike human, Humphrey or something, right?
Catman Crothers?
Yes, he's there as well. But we see all these like side characters that we've seen throughout the series, and I think that's fun.
Yeah, Scatman Crothers shows up and then immediately gets hacked in the chest with an axe.
Right.
By Jack Nicholson.
Yeah.
I'm gonna send you a gif of that.
Okay, good. So Andres and Anne have this dialogue as they're fighting, right? Where Andres is like, "Oh, just give up, like you're losing anyway," and Anne actually fights back, right? Like, "Oh, am I just supposed to stop feeling things? Am I supposed to close myself off the way that you did, right?" And then she has like this line as well, where she really lays it onto Andreas, right? She really gives it to him. Honestly, I pity you, she says as she's like fighting his attacks back. The attacks look amazing. Also, just side note, again, the animation, the choreography is all stunning in this whole fight sequence. Anne says she pities him and that Andreas shut himself off from the rest of the world. She has this cool sequence with the sword too, right? Where she makes it glow blue. Just really awesome. I feel like that was an anime reference of some kind as well. But yeah, just really, really awesome. But meanwhile, the dialogue that she's saying, right, where she's talking about Andreas cutting himself off from the world, shutting himself down, closing off his feelings, burying his feelings, and just suffering for 1,000 years of hating yourself, right? That must have been hard, she says, right? Like, I just loved this sequence and I love this dialogue so much because we know that Anne's superpower, essentially, right, is her power of empathy, is her ability to see the other side and to understand not just what the other person has done, right, but understanding why they have done the things that they've done. And I think like this is so on the money for Andreas, right? The fact that he had to suffer and shut himself off and close his feelings, and the fact that Anne like recognizes that and pities him for it, right? I think is just so powerful. And I love this. I love that Anne is fighting him not only with this like awesome action and this like, you know, anime choreography that we've got going on here with her like blue powers and everything, but she's also using that power of empathy, right, to kind of chip away at Andres's armor, his figurative armor, right, like his the walls that he's put up to close himself off. And I just love that that's the way that this conflict is going, because it really just ties together the themes of the show and the issues with like their paralleling arcs too, right? The way that Anne and Andreas parallel each other. Andreas is almost like, what if Anne had never gone to Amphibia and kind of continued down the way that she's gone, and not learned like this power of empathy. And I just love that is the crux of this fight, is just like Anne truly actually empathizing with Andreas. I really, really love that a lot.
Who would have saved the day if it wasn't Anne? Like in a world where Anne never went to Amphibia, who would have saved the day? Would the invasion even have happened?
I don't know, right? Yeah, good question. Good question.
Maybe the invasion shouldn't have happened. Maybe Anne should never have gone to Amphibia. Maybe they should do you know how they keep remaking Evangelion a million times?
Right.
They should do Amphibia 2.0, where they're like, yeah, go and shoplift that music box. And then Anne's like, shoplifting is wrong. I'm not going to do that. I'm going home now. And then it ends right there.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Like, what's Amphibia? What?
Roll credits. But yeah, no, Toon, I totally agree with you that the fact that Anne was using her empathy and that's what ultimately gets through to Andreas. I like that that is the crux of this battle here. But also, of course, we had to have this fun kind of moment, right, where everyone is kind of cheering Anne on. Mr. X activates these speakers and decides to play the K-pop song, right, and send this little message from the Planters and the Boon Choys and Anne's family, showing her that they're all there in support of her. And this was just like kind of a sweet moment, right, where we think that she's down, and then we get the K-pop moment, and she's brought back to life because of the awesome music, and she's like sweet, life-giving K-pop, right? That was just a lot of fun. I enjoyed that. It tickled me. And then, of course, she decides to kick Andreas's ass with the power of K-pop. I really enjoyed it. It was cheesy, but you know, it's what we have come to expect and love from Amphibia.
You know what this means, right?
Oh, what's that?
It means that canonically K-pop saved the day.
True, very, very true.
I had to lean in really close to my microphone to say that. I don't know why.
I loved this transition too. This episode had a ton of really awesome transitions, but this was probably my favorite one, between the fight of Anne and Sasha, where it kind of flashes.
It's incredibly cool.
Yeah, it's very cool. I loved it a lot.
Very cool.
Very, very cool. And then Sasha kicking Darcy's ass. That was for Grimes, she says as she swings her sword. That was really awesome. And then that moment too where Darcy like wipes the green off of their face. I was like, ooh, creepy, weird. Very odd. Yeah, when Anne snapped back to you audibly said, "Oh my god, Toon." That's funny. Yeah, I was definitely like, let's go, life-giving K-pop. I was cheering. It was really, really awesome. And yeah, the transition was just chef's kiss. Very good, very excellent. Sasha.
Hang on. I have a question.
Yes.
Imagine this is you, right? Imagine you're in Anne's place. What do they have to play on those speakers to make you get up?
Oh, that's a good question. That's a really good question. I'll have to think about that. But I want to know what you guys say in the chat. What is your life-giving song if you have to fight a giant newt tyrant? What would be the song that your soundtrack that you would want to play in the background while you fight him? I'm curious to know. I'd have to think about that. What would be a good song? What would it be for you?
God, what would it be for me? I think it would probably be. I mean, if we're being real, it would probably be the Real Folk Blues.
Yeah, that'd be pretty awesome. Oh gosh, I would really have to think about that.
It would just be the Real Folk Blues, but none of us would fight. Like, it would just make Andreas too like pensive and contemplative. He'd be like, "Man, this is the Real Folk Blues." He says as he takes a long drag from a cigarette, and he's like, "Man, what is this all about? Why are we even doing this?"
So true. Anything from the Tangled? Yeah, that's good. Tangled series. So meanwhile, Sasha is fighting these like projections, right? And she's like, "You think these cheap tricks will still work on me?" This is one thing where I thought this was like a little weak. I know that we were talking, you know, in the previous episode last week about how we really liked how Sasha was able to very easily brush off like these attacks from the core, right? It really just goes to show how much she's grown as a character, how much she's changed. And I totally agree with that. My only wish from this episode was that I wish the core was just throwing more at Sasha for her to brush off. Like, I just feel like that would have been more powerful. I just thought that this whole like projection with these faces was just like a little weak. That was all. Just a tiny nitpick of the episode. That's just my only thing.
I saw someone in the chat mention Promare. Made an edit of this scene playing Inferno from Promare. That's really interesting because Studio Trigger, who made Promare, and you should totally watch Promare because it rocks, it's really good, was like clearly like 100% unabashedly the inspiration for the big fight in the next episode. With all the flashing colors, they go full Studio Trigger. They don't even try to hide it. It might, like, I wouldn't be surprised if like they actually drafted some people from Studio Trigger to animate that. There's a lot of Studio Trigger in both of these episodes.
Yeah,
with the fight scenes.
Absolutely. Oh, Don't Stop Me Now by Queen is a good one.
What I feel like something really unexpected, something really, God, I don't know, friggin' Boz Skaggs. I don't know. What's the least energizing music? What's the kind of music that would just make you want to stay lying on the ground instead of getting up?
Like some freaking oh gosh. What would make me want to say maybe some like Simon and Garfunkel?
I was literally just thinking like the Sound of Silence.
Yeah, Sound of Silence.
It's like, oh man. Might as well just friggin' stay here.
Hikari R by Burnout Syndrome. I'm gonna have to go look up that song. Paradise by Ali or Enemy. Yeah, good choices, good choices. Yeah. A
The
Willow
Entertainer.
song.
The Entertainer.
Yeah, there we go.
You know the
Lots of
Entertainer.
good.
You know the Entertainer.
Being Human from Steven Universe Future. Oh my gosh, yeah, that would keep me on the ground. That would be one that would keep me on the ground. Lean on Me. Oh my gosh, y'all are funny. Yeah, some good tracks here.
Mr. Sandman.
Mr. Sandman.
Man me a sand.
Oh my god, Man me a sand.
Have you heard that?
Yes, I have. Oh god, so good. So anyways, Sasha and Darcy are continuing to fight. Sasha gets freaking sliced by the scythe on her back. God, this looked painful. Freaking Sasha literally got her back sliced open. Ouch. But also I was quite shocked. I don't know about you, but this definitely my jaw was open when I watched this. I was not expecting Disney to go this hard on this battle. Like, this is pretty brutal.
Yeah, they I think some money might have been passed around, some bribes with the
Right.
folks in charge of censorship.
Right. Yeah, totally. Meanwhile, Marcy, she's still trapped within the mindscape of the core. She's hanging out with these fake, and Sasha, who are dressed as our favorite video game characters. And they have this line, right? This very creepy line in unison where they say, like, they want to do whatever Marcy wants. And that, of course, is the thing that kind of triggers the memory for Marcy and allows her to remember the events of what happened in True Colors, right? Which is really heartbreaking, but also really powerful. I feel the fact that the line that clued her in, right, is the fake Anne and Sasha saying that we want what you want always and forever.
Oh.
And Marcy just knowing, right, that isn't true. And that's what makes her realize.
Zoe's right. Comsusa Todd would be a fantastic tune to beat Andreas' ass to.
Nice.
That would be fantastic.
Yes, and cosplaying Link. Maybe. So anyway, Marcy does actually realize, right? She has this recognition that these two can't be real because Sasha and Anne don't actually always want what she wants, right? And we get the return of the photo and Marcy like crying down onto the photo, which is just really heartbreaking, and her realizing, right, that this world is not real because the real Anne and Sasha don't want what I want, and it hurts. But also, I can't force them to follow my dreams because that's wrong. And so I love this moment from Marcy, right? We know that this was kind of her fatal flaw, her critical flaw. Her using escapism to deal with her negative emotions, and her also forcing her friends to go along with it against their will. And not only just forcing, but just like not communicating, right? Like just how important this sort of stuff is to her, right? Like not being honest about like why she's doing the things she's doing. So I feel like this is just a very key moment for Marcy, right, to kind of realize her own mistakes and work towards actually fixing them, right? I learned that the hard way, she says, which is quite poignant. But of course, the core has better plans for her. Oh, sorry, Tom. Did you have anything you wanted to say about Marcy before I talk about the core?
Absolutely nothing of value.
Great. All right. So the core is horrifying and scary, right? he's like, all right, it's time for you to be assimilated. But Marcy refuses, right? And this is a really brave moment from her, and kind of the kind of pinnacle, I think, of her character arc, where she says like, this isn't right, I'm gonna reject you, right? And she uses the photo. This is quite a cool moment, right, where she uses the photo to kind of use the light to fight back against the core. And we get the visual of the core with all of its freaky eyes again. Oh gosh, nightmare fuel, I swear.
At the end of the day, the core is basically just a big nerd.
Yeah, just very true, very true.
A big arrogant nerd.
The core tries to use Marcy's fears, right, again against her, say like, there's nothing for you once you go back to reality. Your parents are, even if your friends win, your parents are just gonna tear the three of you apart, right? And this is kind of like that core message of both Marcy's character arc.
I see what you did there. It's the core message.
I didn't even do that intentionally, but that's really the crux of Marcy's arc, as well as the kind of big theme of the show, right? This idea of change and growth is not something that we can escape from. It's not something we can avoid. It's inevitable, and the best thing that we can do is embrace change, right? Because that's what life is all about.
I don't know why this whole sequence kind of reminded me of some of the interactions between Wirt and the Beast.
Oh, yeah, totally. Just kind of like this accepting, right, that they can't live in their alternate view of reality anymore. And the core ends up taking everything away, right? He's like, all right, if you are not going to play along, you can just sit here in the dark in solitary confinement until your entire personality fades away. And that's pretty horrifying.
That was the big moment that kind of reminded me of Over the Garden Wall.
Right.
Made me think of Are You Ready to See True Darkness? That bit makes everything go black.
Oh my god. I love Over the Garden Wall. It's so good.
Over the Garden Wall is a flawless masterpiece. Everybody knows that.
Yeah. But of course, Marcy hangs on to the photo and she says, Sasha and Anne, I believe in you, which is scary. It's scary to be trapped in a dark void with just the hope that your friends will help save you. It's scary.
I guess she hadn't been practicing her dodge rolls.
Clearly. Meanwhile, Anne definitely has been practicing her dodge rolls, because she's fighting Andreas. She's kicking his giant metal ass, which is great. And she's pretty much on the verge of winning here. She's about to kick his ass and says, call down the invasion. But just as Andreas is about to be defeated, she starts flickering, right? Her powers start running out and start fading. And of course, Andreas notices this and decides like, this is the time to win, right? This is like how we're gonna win now. And he has this line, right, where he's like, oh, when you were so close to, before all the robots show up, showing that Anne really wasn't actually that close to winning this battle. And she even tries to keep fighting, right? But her powers are not turning back on, and Andreas ends up just kind of flicking her off to the side. And meanwhile, everyone down on the ground is seeing this and decides that they need to do something to help. And as Sprig is looking for the boom shrooms, the letter falls out of his pocket, right? And I thought it was kind of funny the way that, like, of course, like, fucking Mr. X had to be the one to discover that there was a hidden message on this letter, right? And so his glasses end up noticing that there is some hidden message on this letter, right? That can only be read through these special lenses. And I do like this, though. I think some people had a worry that this letter was going to like accidentally make its way to Andreas, but I like this a lot better. I like the fact that Sprig actually read the letter and is intentionally going to show it to Andreas. I thought that was a really powerful moment.
Yeah, this whole bit's surreal. It hits you in the old feel box.
Yeah, it really does, doesn't it?
Hits you in the old friggin' feel box.
Yeah, this was probably my favorite part of this episode.
Yeah, mine too. We were kind of we were hitting the ball back and forth on how, if at all, they would redeem
Andreas,
this
right?
character,
Yeah.
and they kind of do it.
Yeah, they
I
kind
don't
of do
even know if
it.
I don't know if I'll go so far as to call it a redemption. It's just that the characters in the end choose to forgive him,
Right.
and enough context is provided where it's like, okay, we get it now, we understand.
Right, right, totally, totally. Um yeah, this was probably my favorite scene. And yeah, totally agree too that I think it's all the more powerful coming from a planter, and especially Sprig, right, who bears such a resemblance to Leaf. Um that probably hit even harder for Andreas. But yeah, I really really loved this whole sequence. It hit me in the feels, right? It obviously hit Andreas in the feels, which was obviously going to be the way to defeat him, right? And Sprig reads this letter out loud, right? This message that Leaf left for him, and it says, I know you must hate me. Please hear me out. After and we got kind of a confirmation about what happened with Leaf and what happened with the music box and the whole timeline of events with that too, right? So she took the music box to Earth, hid it on Earth, and then came back to Amphibia and essentially founded what is now known as Wortwood, right? She basically founded the town. She knew that she couldn't come back to the kingdom, but and although change was scary, and although it was hard for her to open her heart to others again, that is what she ended up doing, and she was glad that she did, right? And even if you're afraid of change, the beauty of life is the change, right? And that's kind of the whole message of the show. You make memories with the people you meet, and change is scary, but it's a part of life, and there's always kind of something for you in life through change, right? So Leaf ends up starting this family, which will of course become the Planter family. She has all these kids and this entire extended family, and it's really sweet. But of course, she has never forgotten Andreas this entire time either, right? Which just goes to show like the power of love, right? The power
You
of
know what
loving
this
someone.
made me think of?
What? Yeah.
The character, I think his name was just Zed, or Z, in Pokemon X and Y,
Mm.
and his Floette, who comes back to him in the end.
Yeah, yeah, totally, totally,
And he
right?
like becomes this tyrant, and then has this whole arc where he just becomes a wandering vagabond, regretting all of his choices and this like lost kinship he had with this other creature. And then it comes to him in the end after he has his sort of like redemption, his moment of realization.
Yeah.
That's what this reminded me of. I don't know why.
No,
Thematically,
no,
it just
I can see
felt
that. Yeah, totally.
something you neglect. I feel like I really need to point this out because you totally skipped over it,
Oh
and
yeah, sure.
honestly, that's shameful. This is really because it's really important to the episode. Is the scene where Leaf meets Steve, and Steve is like, "Hey, I've got a sidecar,"
Yeah, right.
and they go on a little road trip, and she has like a whole
That was Leaf's
moment of self
whole
discovery.
arc. Yeah, that was our arc of self-discovery, was with the help of Steve, of course, of course.
Yeah, we shouldn't neglect to mention that.
Of
I
course.
don't think.
Um that's funny. But like
There's
Leaf,
nothing funny about self discovery, Covey.
fair enough, fair enough.
You.
So Leaf has this line, right, where she says, someday I hope my love reaches you, and she says, don't close yourself off. I'm begging you, my dearest friend, don't close yourself off and open your heart and follow it. Meanwhile, we get this shot of Marcy, right, in this kind of classic anime shot where she's like turning around and smiling. I thought that was really sweet. But really, it just goes to show what Andres' relationship with Marcy was like too, right? Like he did have this genuine care for her, and this genuine like love and like for Marcy, and it was him trying to shut that off and trying to close himself off for that, right? And that pain of that conflict within Andreas, I think, is what kind of allows him, right, to turn over this new leaf, if you will, at the end.
Now I get to say shut up.
But yeah, I think that was just really beautiful, the way that Andreas's friendship with Leaf and Andreas's friendship with Marcy, right? Like Marcy is essentially like this new reincarnation of that love, of that friendship, and I really love that was drawn parallel, and that Andreas trying to shut himself off from like love and feeling, and his conflict with his feelings for Marcy, right, is kind of what is the big conflict with Andreas, and I really like that with his character.
If we're being real
Yes.
for just a hot second,
Yes.
The moment at the very end of their little bit when Marcy says goodbye to Andreas.
Yes.
And they have their last little bit. I cried like
Yeah,
a little idiot.
Yeah,
like a
dude.
Stupid idiot.
The finale hardest thing made me cry quite a bit, and I feel like I cried at like these little moments so much too, like moment with like Grime and Sasha, and like Andreas and Marcy. There was just so many like little moments that just like really
And they
got me.
showed a shot of Sprig clenching his little hat. I wept.
My heart.
Like a big, stupid, dumb idiot.
Yeah.
And I will be pressing charges.
Matt Bradley, you'll be hearing from
you.
our lawyers for the emotional damage you've caused us.
Emotional damage.
Andreas picks up the letter, right, and is like, all this time I thought you had forgotten about me, like I tried to forget you, right? So again, this conflict within Andreas of him trying to let go of these feelings, but just like not able to, right? Because how do you just stop loving a friend, right? Like it's not really that easy. And I will say also, one thing that I just want to say about this shot of Andreas holding this letter, I know that Tom and I were really hard on some of our criticisms of this episode last week when we were talking about Anne and her little essay that she had to do, and how we felt that was just kind of unnecessary and on the nose, a little too like ham-fisted for our preferences. I will say that I think that all of that is still true. That still is probably my least favorite part of this episode. But one thing that someone pointed out to me in the Discord server that made me like it a little bit more was that there are obviously so many parallels between Anne's character and Andreas's character. And we actually get a little bit of a visual parallel with Andreas holding the letter, and how that kind of parallels Anne holding the piece of paper with her essay. So I'll say that is kind of the only thing I will like about the essay part of this episode, is that it allows us for that visual parallel between Anne and Andreas, which I do like. That I will say I like.
So what you're saying is pee is stored in the balls.
Stop! I'm kicking you off the stream. You're done.
You're never gonna kick me off the stream. You're never gonna do it. The day that you kick me off the stream, everything will go silent. You'll be like, man, I miss that guy. I miss his stupid comments and his occasional moment of lucidity.
Everyone in the chat is like being so sweet and so earnest right now, talking about their feelings, talking about their tears. You're over here.
I talked about my tears. Let me put up my emotional defenses again.
Fair enough.
Real talk though. Yeah, no. Toon saying they don't cry easily, but they cry at this. That's really interesting. I feel like that just shows that something's just really connected with you. I think with TV shows as well, because I was thinking about this, and I was thinking, I'm not going to hold us up too much, but I was thinking about this, and I was thinking about like endings in media, and this one really, really hit me very, very hard, and I really felt myself kind of mourning the loss of this thing that I feel like I discovered in a really pivotal moment in my life, and you come to you come to kind of care about characters who don't even exist, and like they're not real, but they become like a thing, right? They become like a fixture in your brain.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about endings. I was thinking about like what are my favorite endings of things, and obviously I think about like Blade Runner 2049, which has just a beautiful ending, such a beautiful bittersweet ending, and this does too. Like the ending of Amphibia is so bittersweet.
Yes.
they really master that bittersweet feeling, don't they? Of like
Yeah.
not completely giving you what you want.
Totally. And I
Yeah.
really liked that. I know the ending was a little controversial. I know some people didn't quite
I
like the
don't get
ending.
if there are people who didn't like the ending, then they need to go back to fucking school or sleep or something.
Yeah, I really liked
Because
the
like
ending.
there's this saying in screenwriting that you should never give the audience what they want,
Totally.
right? Um, there are variations on that saying. It's don't give them what they want, give them what they don't know that they want. My favorite saying, my favorite version of that saying is don't give the audience what they want because the audience doesn't know what they want. They don't have a bloody clue, and it's true, right? Because the
True.
people who are watching this and are not satisfied with what is frankly a fantastic ending, just a great ending,
Yeah.
the people who are not satisfied with that ending want everything to be okay. They want
Right,
everything to be
right.
nice and neat and tied up into a nice little bow. And it's like this is a story made by grown ass adults
Yeah.
who have grown up and been thrust into an uncaring, a frankly massively uncaring universe,
Hmm. Hmm.
and are reflecting on the process of growing up and the process of change and the process of becoming a different person and the things that you lose forever sometimes in that
Right.
process, but which still remain kind of a part of you. Uh, and that's what that ending does. That's
Yeah.
why it's there. It's kind of just making you just accept, like especially for kids as well.
Totally, totally.
That's something Infinity Train did really, really well in a frankly an all too realistic way at times.
Yeah, right. Totally, totally.
um, we all know that Game of Thrones has the best ending of all time. You are
I have to imagine you're being sarcastic.
certainly being sarcastic, because not even Game of Thrones fans, of which I am not one,
Yeah.
did not like that ending.
Yeah. But also, yeah, Shadow and Tyrone mentioning that the bittersweetness kind of reminded them of the Adventure Time ending. I totally agree. I love the Adventure Time ending as well. And the more I think about the Amphibia ending, I'm obviously still kind of processing it. Like it's only been like a day since I watched it, so I'm still kind of processing the ending. So, but the more I think about it, the more I liked what they did, and the more I agree with kind of the choices they made and how it made for kind of a satisfying ending, both thematically and for like the what we have seen with these characters, right? So I
Yeah,
really like the ending. The more I think about it, the more I enjoy it. But we'll obviously get more into it
yeah.
as we get there.
And
I don't.
but before we go on, I want to hear people in the chat tell me what some of their favorite endings are of like
Ooh,
shows and movies, shows, books,
yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
I don't care if it's like a theater production. I want to know what your favorite like story endings are, like the ones that just really kind of resonated with you.
I think for me personally, one of my favorite endings is Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. Um,
See, that
I
has a really nice, like full, big,
Yeah.
like the conflict of that episode ends pretty early, and then the rest of the episode is just like, here's the characters.
Right, exactly. And I really liked that. I really enjoyed that a lot. I thought that was one of the most satisfying endings of like, and anime endings for me in general, I feel like are hit or miss. And I feel like that one is like one of the best endings of all time.
Cowboy
Um,
Bebop has one of the best endings of all time.
Bebop is great too. Definitely,
Absolutely
definitely.
incredible, very sad.
Sad and hits hard. What else has a great ending? I'm a bit split on the ending of Buffy. I won't spoil it because I know we haven't watched it, but I do actually really like the end of Angel, which is the Buffy spin-off series.
Yeah.
I feel like the end of Angel has a really fun ending. Um,
The ending of Chinatown is one of the greatest endings of anything
Steven
ever.
Universe Future. Oh yeah, Chinatown. I still need to watch too. Steven Universe Future, Our Blast. I totally agree with that. I love the ending of that.
See, I haven't seen that. Excuse me, I haven't seen that show all the way through, but I have seen the ending, and I do agree.
Yeah, yeah.
Over the Garden Wall has a lovely
Oh,
ending.
so good, so good. Yeah.
Over the Garden Wall, the ending of Over the Garden Wall makes me kind of well up just thinking about it because it's just got like all those beautiful little. See, that's something that does kind of wrap everything up in a bow in a really beautiful way that's earned.
Yeah, totally,
You know,
totally.
and it's the bit that breaks me is when the woodsman is sat on his porch on his rocking
Oh
chair
my
looking
god,
miserable,
yeah.
and his daughter comes out, and it's like, oh god,
Oh my gosh.
no.
Yeah, my
And then
heart.
right before it cuts to black, you got Greg putting the little rocks factor rock
My
back in old
heart.
lady Daniel's garden.
Yeah,
Don't
really,
call
really
me old
good.
lady. Yes, sir, young man.
Yeah, really, really good.
I
All
saw
right,
someone
cool.
mentioning
Lots
the
of
Shawshank Redemption. Absolutely beautiful ending. Shawshank Redemption, one of the best endings ever. So earned. So
I still
earned.
need to watch
So
it. I
beautiful.
still need to watch
We
it.
got to watch that. Yeah, beautiful film.
Awesome. I love all your guys' answers. You guys you've got some good taste in endings. Good job, guys. Anyway, back to Amphibia. We only have about 15 minutes left to talk about this. I don't even know if we're going to get to the end of this episode. But Andreas, right, he reads the letter and he basically falls to tears, right? But he acknowledges, right, that what he's done has been wrong. But at the same time, he says, there's no going back. I've already caused so much harm, which is really true, right? And I really I feel like this is such a grounded, realistic response from Andreas, like this person who has suffered and emotionally closed himself off for 1,000 years and who's been basically pushed around by his abusive father and like this entity, the core, manipulating him to do their bidding. And all the while, like Andres doesn't even want, right, to be a part of the core, and instead wanted to be with his friends and is like in this pain. But at the same time, like he's so far gone, right? Like he's done so much harm and he's done so much already and there's no going back, right? So I feel like this moment with Andres just kind of breaking down and sobbing is kind of the most realistic reaction that we could get from him. It was really heartbreaking. It really hit me. And part of what made
He's
this one of my favorite scenes in the episode.
he's too far gone. He's wasted every day.
Yeah, yeah,
By the time he gets up, he's already hitting the source.
yeah. Sasha in the meantime is still fighting Darcy, right? She's kind of all beat up from the freaking slice in her back, and she's really not looking great. This is not a great moment for Sasha. But as Darcy, just before Darcy attacks her, she realizes that Andreas is not fighting, right, and is broken down in the core, speaking in their own head, saying like, Aldrich, your son is losing the will to fight. And the core tries to use like their whatever telepathic powers or whatever to control Andreas, right? And Darcy has this line to Sasha, right? Like, oh, as a control freak, you'll probably really appreciate this, right? You'll enjoy watching me control and manipulate Andreas. But of course, this has been a big emotional journey for Sasha in this episode, right? The fact that she is insecure about her relationship with Marcy because she knows that the person that she used to be hurt Marcy and doesn't want to be seen as that person anymore, right? And like this idea of Darcy and Marcy only knowing the old them and like using that to try to defeat them. But of course, the conversation that Anne and Sasha had earlier in the episode, right, where they talk about how they're not those people anymore. They've grown, they've changed, and therefore Marcy and Darcy can't use those things that they used to be against them anymore. And I thought this was such a powerful moment to just like send that home, for Sasha, especially, right? Anne is like reactivating her blue powers. The core is trying to control Andreas. But of course, Sasha having come as far as she has. And I also just love this moment as well, too, because it's just been this established character trait of Sasha, of her getting this like second wind, right? And like her just having that determination and that will and just like that stubbornness, right, to continue fighting. So I love that that's also coming back into play here with Sasha. Like that is who Sasha is, right? Sasha is the person that never gives up, always keeps fighting. And she's not the person who just wants to control and manipulate anymore, but she's going to keep fighting for what she believes is right? So I love this Sasha moment so much. Really, really powerful moment for me. And Sasha is also just one of my favorite characters in the show. And I just, oh God, I audibly cheered out loud at this, when she's fighting back. Obviously it reminded me of the Third Temple when she was like fighting back. And yeah, I really just love this moment with Sasha.
She is filled with
Yes.
determination.
Yes. Filled with determination. Hell yeah. Let's go. Perseverance. Exactly. Our blast. And we see Sasha come through, right? And she's like, I'm not that person anymore. Really awesome epic moment while she swings her sword, right? And the scythe falls to the ground. And I cheered at this. I was like, yes, let's go, Sasha. Really, really awesome. I really enjoyed this moment. And meanwhile, Darcy is like frantically like checking themselves, making sure that they did not get cut. And they're like, "Oh, you missed, right?" I thought this was such a fun moment because like it's a little bit of a trope, it's a little bit of a cliche, like, "Oh, you missed, want to bet?" And then ended up like actually.
This was a very Fist of the North Star, kind of thing. You're already dead, Nani.
Yeah. And yeah, I will say this moment where the core got disconnected and they're like, you fool, do you have any idea what you've done? Before the hardest thing aired and this moment happened, I thought that Sasha cutting the core was gonna be the cause of the moon falling, and I was actually a little disappointed when that didn't end up being the case, because
I mean, it kind of is. It kind of technically is.
I mean, yeah,
because like the established fact of it is that it's like it's all or nothing for this thing,
right,
for these people. It's this thing of like, if I can't have what I want, then no one gets anything. And I'm going to bring everyone down with me, which is kind of how I interpreted that. Do you have any idea what you've done? Like, you've fucked up my plan, so now I have to destroy everything.
Yeah. No, I totally agree that that's what it was, and that's how I interpret it now that hardest thing has come out. But I'll say that, like, I thought it would have been a little bit more fun, and I was kind of predicting it to be that, like, this was an accidental thing. Like, oh, you cut off my connection, now the moon's going to fall, and it's, like, your fault, which ended up not really being the case, but I wasn't too bothered by it. It was fine.
So what you're saying is P is stolen the balls.
I'm ignoring you.
You can't ignore me. You don't have the power.
This was an awesome shot, though, right? Like the spinning shot. There were a lot of really awesome turns and spins in these last two episodes where I just have to give kudos to the animators. Like, they did a fantastic job in these two episodes. The spin was awesome. The core gets shut down, and the helmet falls off, and Marcy has been released, right? And we just get this moment with Sasha holding Marcy, which I've seen a lot of people make some really great memes out of that frame. So I'll leave it at that. It was really funny.
Were they gay? Were they gay memes?
Some of them were gay memes, of course. Good stuff. Yeah,
good for them.
Good for them. And in the meantime, she's powered back up, and she's dealing the final blow to Andreas. Meanwhile, Andreas is kind of echoing the sentiment from Leaf's letter, right? Saying, like, don't close yourself off, open your heart and follow it, which of course leads him to literally open himself up, right? Allowing Anne to deal the final blow to him.
You make that sound weirdly sexual.
You didn't have to say that, but thank you.
You must have known. Surely, when you said that.
I'm ignoring you. But this was also a really shocking moment, right, for me, right? Andreas just sort of accepting his fate, realizing that he is too far gone, but also recognizing his mistakes. And then we get this visual, right, of Anne just rocketing through Andreas, and Andreas like falling apart, and Anne like literally going through him. Like, this was really shocking to me. I was not expecting this. And then of course we get the big reveal, right? I don't know if anyone saw this coming.
He's a robot.
I didn't see this coming. I didn't see anyone predict this. I didn't see anyone like speculate about like any of this at all. Why did Andreas live so long for 1,000 years? It's because he's a freaking cyborg. Like, oh my gosh, this was really shocking. I was really surprised at that. I don't know about you guys.
He's been friggin' Darth Vadering us this whole time.
He really has been. Meanwhile, we get these shots of like everyone from Earth cheering. I really enjoyed this moment with Maggie. I thought this was funny, right? A little redemption moment for Anne's former bully. And her doing the thumbs up with the teary eyes was just funny to me. I enjoyed that. It tickled me. And also the teacher, right, with her freaking the principal with her stockpile of toilet paper is also cheering and very ecstatic at this, right? Anne and Sprig hug because they've won and it's really happy, but of course they see Andreas, and yeah, I was really shocked. This again was particularly gruesome, more gruesome than I was expecting for a Disney show. So I was just like, wow, this is crazy. Did anyone see this coming? If anyone saw this coming, you got a gold star from me, because I did not even think to like ask, how did Andreas live for 1,000 years? He must be turning himself into a cyborg.
I just assumed it was just like, well, I guess that's just like his species lost,
right? Yeah,
a long time.
Yeah, I was definitely shocked.
He and Bellows, they have their ways.
They have their ways, right? Bellows slurping the palisman juice and
snorting those lines of palisman.
And Andreas just performing robotic surgery on himself.
Tell you what, Hunter, that palisman juice is really Moorish. You don't even know what that's a reference to. You'd be laughing if you knew what that was a reference to.
I don't know. Yeah.
Just pretend you got it and pretend it was really funny and witty.
Yeah. Theus says a toad lost an arm. Newt got a shot through the heart, and a frog gets messed with his mind because of the bird trauma. That's funny. That's an interesting little parallel you got there. And still does feel sorry for Andreas, right? The force field comes down off of the castle, and Andreas even says, right, like, you must save Marcy, right? So again, really just proving to us that Andreas does genuinely care about Marcy. Anne makes her way up into the castle and sees Marcy has been rescued, but of course she's unconscious as Sasha is holding her. This was also really just touching, heartwarming moment, heartwarming, heartbreaking, right? As Sasha and Anne are holding Marcy in tears, asking for her to wake up and come back to them, and Sasha saying, like, come back to us, we forgive you, right? It's a really, really sweet moment. And then as they're crying, Marcy ends up waking up. Just really, really
dodge
sweet.
rolled death.
She dodge rolled death. Good for her.
See, now Marcy is a pro gamer.
She is a pro gamer. That's been established already.
That's been established. She is min-maxing the hell
truly
out of her iframes.
Truly. Yeah, me too, Magical. I really love that they're all finally reunited. It made me really happy. And we get this cute Olivia and Yunnan moment. They're hugging. I'll just say we definitely all called it that Olivia is canon in the finale. We love to see it. I'm so happy. And then meanwhile, the rest of the planters and Grime are there as well. And we finally get this moment, right? This kind of reconciliation between Marcy and the girls, where she apologizes for what she did, explains where she was coming from. The thought of losing you was just so big and so scary, right? I was afraid that if we weren't going to be together, we wouldn't be friends anymore. And this is where Anne explains to Marcy kind of the biggest kind of message of the show, right? And what we are meant to learn. She says that no matter how much we fight it or deny it, things change, right? Like, that's just a part of life. We can't stop it. But the thing about friendship and the thing about loving someone is that even if you're physically apart from someone, even if you're not talking to them every day, when you have loved someone and when they have changed your life in such a powerful and meaningful way, those bonds and that love never really fully goes away, right? Nothing can take away the memories of the time that we spent together, and those memories and that love is something that remains regardless of the change that happens in your life, right? And that's a really beautiful sentiment. And of course, Sprig overhears this, right? And we know that that is a struggle that he was dealing with earlier in this episode. This idea of, he was thinking that things will just go back to how they were before, where him and Anne will just go on Monster of the Week adventures and it'll be great, without recognizing that things are, of course, going to change for them as well, too, right? And that is a big piece of the emotional climax that we get in the next episode, in the finale. But I love that there's these parallels, right, between Anne and her friends on Earth with with Marcy and Sasha, and of course this parallel with Anne and her friendship with Sprig, which I think this show just does like character parallels really, really well. And I just, yeah, it's a beautiful sentiment and a beautiful moment between these characters. I really enjoyed.
Yeah, it's good because I do feel like, I mean, I don't know. I feel like to me at least, I feel as though the relationship between Anne and Sprig is so much of like the heart of the show, and I think
Yes.
this is not a criticism. I think this is, natural in the context of what the story is. It became less about that, more about the three girls towards the latter end of this season. And I don't want to say I think that's a shame, because I don't. Like, works. I'm just very glad that this episode and the next episode do that Spran dynamic, the due diligence.
Yeah, me too. I was really happy to see that.
And I kind of liked I liked the little detail in the finale that when Ivy takes off her cap, her hair looks like Anne's hair.
Yeah, that's cute. All right, we only have 2 minutes left of this episode. Let's try to power through and get to the end.
Blast through them. It's 10 p.m.
If we can hang on for just a little longer, Tom. This was obviously the setup for the next episode, right? The core is not dead, is in fact still alive in this freaking helmet, like a little spider demon. So it just pops right back up and runs off, right? Which of course sets us up for the next episode. Meanwhile, everyone on Earth is kind of mitigating the damage down here. They're kind of cleaning up after the battle, and Mr. and Mrs. Boon Choi FaceTime Anne and like let them know that they're going to go to Amphibia just to like settle these last few things, and then they'll come back. We get at least a mention of Marcy and Sasha's parents. I know that some people were anticipating them actually showing up in these last two episodes. I was actually kind of hoping that they would at first, but now that we're on the other side of these two episodes, I'm kind of glad that they didn't. I feel like that, like we've got enough implications about their parents that we don't necessarily need more of them. And I feel like that would have just added a lot to what was already a very full finale, right? So I'm okay with the fact that we didn't necessarily see them. And they end up, going back to Amphibia. And now that the attack has been on all TV, it'll be easier to explain to their parents, right? Which is quite fun. Do the big birds just stay in LA? Yeah, I guess they just hang out now. I guess they work for the government.
They're just a fixture. They're just a fixture of LA.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Oh yeah, it's the LA birds over there.
The LA giant herons.
It's like fine. They're fine. They're not going to hurt you. Just don't get in there. Like,
and just keep your distance from them. Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree with you, Robin, that it's nice when characters don't necessarily always get what they want, right? But they get what they need. I think that's the key difference.
Did you just accidentally quote a Rolling Stones song?
Maybe it wasn't quite on accident.
Did you just deliberately quote a Rolling Stones song?
But it's true though, right? Like this idea of characters, what they want versus what they need, and how that can make for a satisfying story, right? When characters don't get what they want but what they need. I feel like Disney kind of does that a lot with their stories.
I'm just very surprised that you knew a Rolling Stones song.
I know some songs.
To make a reference to.
I'm forgetting the melody of it though right now. It's like, we get what we need. That's the only part I know of that song. Anyway, let's wrap this up. They are victorious, right? Lady Olivia announces to the armies who have been back here fighting, right, that everything's over. They've won. They've defeated Andrews and Darcy. This was a really funny like bit, right, too, where Sasha was like, "Oh, we didn't even need that prophecy," and of course Marcy's eyes just like bug out because she's just a huge nerd who loves that kind of stuff, and she's like, "Prophecy? What prophecy?" Right?
She's a huge nerd, also known as a herd.
Also known as a herd. But of course, Sasha spoke a little bit too soon when she said that we didn't need the prophecy yet. A little too soon, Sasha. Little bit too soon. And then we get this question from Sprig, right? Which, of course, sets us up for the next episode as well. The way that things have changed between you and Sasha and Marcy, do you think things will change between us as well, right? And Anne, I really love her answer here, right? Like, she's honest, but she's speaking from the heart, right? Where she's like, I don't know how things will change, but we will always have each other, right? We'll always have our love for each other, and that is very true. And I love that core message from the show. And then
did
of course,
it again.
Yes, totally. And then of course we get the freaking final cliffhanger of the show, right? Sprig rubbing his eyes just to make sure he is seeing what he is seeing, and he asks, "Hey, is it just me, or is the moon getting closer?" Right? And of course, the moon is making its way downtown, walking fast, faces past, and it is homebound.
Yeah.
But no, the first time I watched this, right, like I really didn't know what was going on. I was really shocked. I was surprised, but obviously we kind of knew that this was coming, at least to an extent, because we saw this, of course, in Leaf's vision, right, in the Core and the King episode. But I know that a lot of people were really shocked at this revelation. This was such a fun twist, in my opinion, too. Everyone was like kind of pointing out like, oh my gosh, the moon has been in the background, right, of like every title card and like every episode, and it's been there hanging over us as this big foreshadowing thing, and this kind of revelation, this twist that the moon is actually a part of the Core, right, and not actually a real moon. That was such a fun twist, and I really enjoyed that. And of course, we find out in the next episode that this is not, in fact, a natural moon. It is a giant machine as part of the Core, which is such a fun twist. Really, really awesome. And of course, we end the episode on this giant. Is it
that it's not a natural moon? I thought it was the moon was natural, but he like set up base there.
I thought it was a giant machine because of the way that the eyes were all over it, but maybe I'm wrong.
But those were just, those were like, I assumed that was like modifications they'd made. I thought the moon was natural, but they'd gone up to the moon and started
maybe
building stuff on it.
I misinterpreted that then. But the fact that
because I think that's what Andreas said.
Okay, maybe I got that wrong. But yeah, just the fact that the Core and the moon has like just been this ominous glowing entity that's like just been there the whole series, like that was just a fun reveal in my opinion.
They destroy the moon and there's absolutely no ecological consequences.
I mean,
of that,
come on,
Tom.
Come on. Yeah, I was really shocked at this cliffhanger. When this cliffhanger came up, I was so curious to know how the heck they could top this. Little did we know. Exactly, too. And that's what I was thinking, too. I was like, wow, how are they going to turn this around in the last episode? Of course, they managed to do it in such a beautiful and brilliant way. I absolutely love the finale. Before we wrap up, I'll just kind of end on that note. This 44-minute finale was so epic. It was so awesome. There were, of course, a couple of small things that I would have done differently if it were me. But overall, this show has really touched a really special place in my heart. I love all these characters so much. And Sasha and Marcy are all so relatable in their own ways. Anne and her relationship with Sprig and the Planters is just like such a beautiful found family story that just like really warms my heart so much. This 44-minute episode was like the big action adventure part of the finale, and then of course we get the next episode, which is the big emotional climax of the finale. Of course we get a little bit of action in the next episode too, but I feel like that was really the emotional climax of the series, and I thought that was that's a brilliant way to kind of cap off the series, like having this big action adventure finale and then kind of close it off with this like emotional finale. I really thought that was brilliant, and yeah, just congratulations, to Matt Braley and the Amphibia team on such an epic show and such an epic finale. This will go down in history, in my opinion, as one of the greatest, especially serialized cartoons, I think. One of the greatest Disney shows, in my opinion. Yeah, I just have so much love and so much gratitude for this show. Like you said, Tom, it came to me kind of in a hard time in my life as well. And just the amount of laughs and joy that this series has brought into my life, I'm really, really blessed and really grateful for. And of course, for all of you as well, for all of you guys hanging out every week as we talk about the show. I really enjoy sharing it with you. As I've kind of grown as a person, and the way that I interact with media and the way that I interact with other people who enjoy the same media as me, it's changed quite a bit over the years. And I'm not the kind of person anymore who will go kind of like on Twitter or Tumblr for hours a day to talk about the stuff that I'm into. So I really appreciate that you guys have allowed me to create this space at least once a week for us to just like talk and gush and enjoy these episodes. And so I'm really grateful for all of you for joining us every week to enjoy these episodes with us. And I love this show. I love this show a lot. I'm really sad to see it go, but I also love the way it ended. Of course, next week, we're not quite done with it yet. We'll talk more in depth about the hardest thing when we discuss after the new Owl House next week as well. But I think for now, we're going to have to wrap it up. Thank you guys so much for joining us this week. Tom, is there anything else that you want to say before we wrap up for the day?
This is like a totally irrelevant thing, but somebody I follow on Twitter was complaining. They were complaining about like half of the writing staff of Amphibia having like blocked them on Twitter, and they're like, oh, I don't know why they did it. I don't get it. It's like, oh, and I know for a fact this person was like one of the main people constantly tweeting about how mid this season has been, like constantly going like, oh, this has been so mid, it's so disappointing. Oh, they should have done more with
like
Marcy and like they were one of the main people constantly bitching about that. And they have like a pretty sizable following as well. So like a lot of their tweets were getting like upwards of 1,000 kind of likes, and
right.
And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, if I were a writer on a show and the stuff I were like week after week putting my heart and soul into was just getting bashed by some friggin' furry on Twitter who, like, I like this guy. His art's really good. He's probably a swell guy, but like, it's so rude. Like, media criticism is great, like earnest, honest criticism. It kind of needs to happen, but the way he was doing it was so like petulant and repetitive and mean sometimes. Like, if I were making this show, if I were one of the writers on the show, I wouldn't want that energy on my timeline. I would be blocking that guy. Like, not even out of disrespect. It's like, I can't look at this. Like, I'm working on this thing. I've got week after week pressure on me to get something out on time. I'm doing my damn best to make this damn show. Like, yes, criticism is important, but like, stop beating a dead horse.
Don't be an asshole, right? Yeah, exactly.
Don't be an asshole about it.
Yeah.
Toon knows which guy it is. Toon gets me.
Yeah, there's a lot I could say about Twitter. I won't get into it today because I will go off for hours if I get into it today. So we're not going to do that. But yeah, I really am grateful for just how much work and how much love and passion has gone into this show, clearly, from the writers and from the crew and from all the animators. Also, can we just say, like, shout out to the fact that at the end of the finale episode, during the credits, we actually got the individual names of all the animators from the overseas animation department. Like, that is just awesome. Kudos to Amphibia for doing that. That's really wonderful. I think that should just be the established norm from now on. Instead of just crediting the studio, they should actually credit the animators. I think that's great.
Yeah.
But yes, thank you all so much again for joining us and for discussing these shows with us. I had so much fun. I had a really great time. You all had some wonderful thoughts. I would love to keep hearing your predictions for Luce's Palisman in the Discord, so keep that going as well. And then
I have a plug. I have a plug, a shameless plug.
Yes,
I forgot.
Please plug. Yeah, absolutely.
I did a little animated diorama, I guess is that what they call it? Diorama? A little animated diorama to celebrate the show ending. I worked really hard on it. I'm not gonna lie, it looks fantastic. I'm really pleased with it.
Nice.
It's got like 20 likes. You'll go check it out. Give me an ego boost. I worked really hard on this thing.
Yeah, go check it out. Go check out Tom's Twitter. Give that a like. Give that a retweet. I have not seen that yet. I'm gonna go retweet.
You're gonna love it. I worked so damn hard on it. It looks really good. I'm not to toot my own horn, but.
All right, y'all. Well, thank you all once again for being your lovely selves. Take care. Stay safe. Get vaccinated if you're able to. Stay hydrated. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Be good. All that good stuff. And I'll see you all next week. Goodbye.
Hurrah. My God, I unplugged my mic and I'm still friggin' connected.